Chapter 534. The pagodas were called the North and South Pagodas. The two pagodas were dozens of feet tall, and they faced each other as though they were twins. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su sat on top of the pagodas until the middle of the night. Chu Qingyan was nestled next to him, and she was covered by his cloak, so she didn't feel cold. Big Ice Cube, what's the legend of Star Moon Lake? Since it had such a name, there must be a good story behind it. 100 years ago, there was an internal strife within the royal family in the Shang nation. More than 100 members of the royal family were killed, and their ashes were scattered in the lake. After a few years, the lake began to glow during winter nights. Some people said that the ghosts were unwilling to accept their fate. Xiao Su's tone was flat and calm, but the person beside him was faintly trembling. Big Ice Cube, don't say any more. I'm getting nervous. Chu Qingyan tugged at his sleeves as she begged. Xiao Su smiled faintly. I'm done. Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief. Big Ice Cube had brought her here to see the lake, yet there was such a frightening legend behind it. It would have been better if he hadn't told her. The two of them looked at the glowing lake in silence. Suddenly, Chu Qingyan broke the silence. Big Ice Cube, what do you think is the progress of Sister Yenlua's research on the herb? Although she told herself not to think about it, she couldn't help but think about it. She should be asleep by now. Huh? He's asleep. Chu Qingyan was stunned. The most important thing for the love grass is to slowly take root and sprout at dawn. Miss Cheng only needs to prepare the soil at night. She doesn't need to do anything in the middle of the night. She was also waiting in front of the flower pot. Not everyone was like her, who kept this matter close to her heart and couldn't be at ease. Because she cared, she was worried. Oh, I almost forgot. Sister Yenluo did mention something like that. Chu Qingyan scratched the back of her head and giggled. Xiao Su reached out and touched her head, then pulled up the cloak that had slipped off her shoulders. His actions were natural, and Chu Qingyan did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. Instead, she approached him and started a conversation. Big Ice Cube, tell me about your travels in the past. I'm curious. Changing the topic was to distract her from her constant worry, but it was of no use. She knew that Big Ice Cube had been traveling outside for 2 years to study, so she wanted to know what kind of life Big Ice Cube had experienced after leaving the palace and not going to the battlefield. It's boring to talk about it. Xiao Su frowned, perplexed. As long as it's not boring for me. Hurry up and tell it. Just treat it as a bedtime story for me. Chu Qingyan didn't give up. Xiao Su muttered to himself irresolutely before he said, let me tell you about the different ways of eating in the Sichuan region. Okay. She loved food the most. The night was tranquil, and the moon was clear. His voice was low and deep as he whispered into her ear. Chu Qingyan felt sleepy as she listened. Are you sleepy? Xiao Su noticed her rubbing her eyes and couldn't help but ask. Uh-huh. Let's go back. Actually, she realized that as long as she was by Big Ice Cube's side, she would feel calm and at ease. He was a man who made her feel at ease. It was a pity that the women in the Sichuan region only looked at his appearance, not his temperament. Otherwise, her Big Ice Cube would have been much better. However, it was too late now. Anyone who wanted to get close to him would have to go through her first. Let's go back. Xiao Su got up, but she grabbed his hand. He lowered his head and looked at her questioningly. My legs are numb from sitting. I can't walk anymore. Chu Qingyan snorted. So? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Piggyback me. She smiled slyly. Xiao Su shook his head. She didn't need to find an excuse. He wouldn't refuse her if she said so. Chu Qingyan looked at the broad and solid back in front of her and lay on it contentedly. Let's go. Let's go home. Let's go home. Xiao Su's heart warmed when he heard this. Okay. His black robes were embroidered with golden threads at the cuffs and hem of his robes. At this moment, they were fluttering in the air, reflecting the moonlight. Golden light flowed and it was extremely beautiful. The person on his back was dressed in exquisite snow-white clothes. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, creating beautiful arcs one after another. One black and one snow, they rose and fell in the night sky. Some people said that they saw the legendary celestial couple that night. It was very beautiful as a painting. When they returned to the inn, Chu Qingyan had already fallen asleep on his back. In order not to disturb others, Xiao Su placed her on his bed. Then, he sat on the small bed next to hers. He leaned on the side of his face and made do for the night. When the night had just receded and dawn had just begun, a hurried carriage had already passed through the morning dew and was speeding towards the palace of Shang country. In the carriage, Ethereal was half asleep and half awake. He was very resentful. He hadn't slept enough yet. Then, he turned to look at the person who woke him up early in the morning, Yilingfeng. At this moment, Yilingfeng's entire body was tense. He sat in the carriage as if he was facing a great enemy. His complexion was very poor. There were faint green circles under his eyelids. It was obvious that he hadn't slept for the entire night. However, his mental strength wasn't bad. In his eyes, there was worry, anxiety, panic, and anticipation. Ethereal leaned against the wall of the carriage and was puzzled. When they were in Jiang country, everyone knew that Du Guqing liked Yilingfeng. However, no one knew when Yilingfeng started to care about Du Guqing. He wondered if he had been too closed off recently. That's why he didn't even know about this kind of thing that even a fool could see. But even this kind of thing that even a fool could see, Yilingfeng only found out recently. He had fallen in love with someone who used to love him deeply but was ruthlessly hurt by him. The carriage soon arrived at the palace gate. Yilingfeng showed the token that Du Guqing gave to Chu Qingyan to the guard. Sure enough, the carriage was unimpeded. Du Guqing, who had just finished the morning court, received the news that Yilingfeng had brought a doctor into the palace. Yilingfeng? Du Guqing was very surprised. This person, when did he care about her so much? Yes, young Master Yi is almost at the imperial study. Does your highness want to see him? I heard that he brought an extremely skilled doctor with him. Zhang Kai stood in front of her and reported. His voice was filled with joy. Zhang Kai was Du Guqing's confidant and most trusted subordinate. Zhang Kai also knew that Du Guqing and Du Guqing had swapped identities. So when he heard that Yilingfeng had brought a famous doctor, he was naturally happy. Du Guqing originally wanted to refuse. If it was little Qingyan, she might have agreed because she wanted to prevent her identity from being exposed. However, since Zhang Kai had already spoken, Du Guqing had no reason to refuse. Bring him to see this consort. Also, summon Chu Qingyan. If she has time today, she can come to the palace. This consort has something to ask of her. Du Guqing walked towards the imperial study. Sometimes, there were some things that you couldn't avoid even if you wanted to. When you didn't want to avoid them, you just couldn't encounter them. Chapter 535. When Yilingfeng appeared in the imperial study, Du Guqing was standing by the window with her hands behind her back. Your Highness, this one has brought a doctor and would like him to take a look at Her Highness. I sincerely request Your Highness permission. Yilingfeng bowed and spoke of his plan. Okay. Du Guqing turned around and glanced at Ethereal. She knew that he was a famous doctor by Xiao Su's side. If Ethereal could treat him, her brother might have some hope. This crown prince didn't ask anything and agreed. Yilingfeng, who had prepared a speech, was stunned. At this time, Zhang Kai came in and took Ethereal away. Only Du Guqing and Yilingfeng were left in the imperial study. Seeing Ethereal being taken away, Yilingfeng immediately spoke, Your Highness, may I be allowed to visit Her Highness? Hearing this, Du Guqing looked at him with bright eyes. The moment Yilingfeng finished speaking, he met Du Guqing's gaze. He looked away unnaturally. That pair of eyes that were so similar to Dugu Qing's made him not dare to look straight at them. It was as though looking into Dugu Qing's eyes would make him think of Dugu Qing. Why? Dugu Qing noticed that he was avoiding her gaze but didn't care. She leaned on the table and looked at him in confusion. What why? Yi Lingfeng didn't understand. Your Highness, what are you asking? Why did you come to Shang country? Why did you bring Ethereal? Why do you want to see her? Dugu Qing looked at him and threw 3 questions at him. These 3 questions caught him off guard and made him feel embarrassed. It was as if the questions had reached the depths of his heart. The wall that was about to collapse cracked bit by bit. Your Highness, this is a matter between me and Her Highness. After a while, Yi Lingfeng found his voice. He didn't look at Dugu Qing but looked down and said calmly. His words hinted that he was meddling too much. Young Master Yi, you can't blame me for asking this. It's because Imperial Sister likes you too much. However, the spies reported that you hurt her too much during this time. Which parent or brother would allow someone who hurt their family to visit them? When Dugu Qing said this, there was still hope in her heart. She originally thought that it was over, but he brought someone over early in the morning. A small fire lit in her heart. Everyone said that they would forget, but in their hearts, they would never forget. Time would heal the scars, but it had only been half a month since they parted. The memories of their time together appeared in her mind. Time didn't have time to fade away, but he came over and told her that he wanted to see her. Heart could be dead, but if it wasn't completely forgotten, it could be rekindled. Yi Lingfeng listened to Dugu Qing's words and felt that it made sense, but what right did he have to say those words now? He suddenly calmed down. I came to Shang countries to help my friends. The princess used to be my friend. Now that she's in trouble, as a friend, I should do my part. I happen to know a doctor, so I brought him here. I wanted to see her because I felt guilty towards her and wanted to see if she was alright. 333 answered 3 every time Yi Lingfeng replied. The hope in Dugu Qing's eyes dimmed bit by bit. Little Qing Yan was right. Without hope, there wouldn't be disappointment. She shouldn't have had hope in Yi Zhenfeng. He said that he was a heartless person. How could you expect a heartless person to have feelings for you? If that's the case, then this consort thanks young Master Yi on behalf of Imperial Sister for bringing the doctor. Dugu Qing heard herself reply. Her heart was dead again. Your Highness is too polite. Yi Lingfeng didn't know why, but he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. He suddenly felt something and looked up at the person in front of him. Unfortunately, Dugu Qing had already turned her back. She ordered, come, bring young Master Yi to rest. Send someone to bring him back later. Yes. Someone had already come up to bring him down. Yi Lingfeng said politely, then this one will take his leave. With that, Yi Lingfeng turned to leave. The moment he turned around, he sighed slightly. It seemed that this crown prince wouldn't let him see little Qing. He'd better wait for Ethereal to return before asking about the situation. When the door of the palace was slammed shut, no one knew that at that moment, the woman in luxurious clothes had tears in her eyes, her gaze waning. If life was like the first time we met, there would be no autumn wind. Ordinary things change, but the heart of an old friend changes easily. The world was like this, and so was fate. Miss, what's your surname? Dugu. The Dugu bloodline is thin. My surname means that I'm destined to be alone in this life. Dugu Qing closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. Wait, Yi Lingfeng, who had just walked out of the imperial study, felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Dugu Qing's expression when she looked at him was familiar. It was like little Qing's grief when she broke up with him that day. Right. He mentioned Ethereal. He didn't tell him that the person he brought was Ethereal. How could he call out Ethereal's name at a glance? Could it be that he knew Ethereal? No, Xiao Laiqi had never been to Shang, and Dugu Qing couldn't have known Ethereal. Suddenly, a bold guess appeared in his mind. He wasn't Dugu Qing, he was her. He was shocked by his own thought. How could little Qing pretend to be the crown prince? Wait a while more. Little Qing wasn't the kind of person who wanted to usurp the throne. Since she left in such a hurry, it should be not long after the Shang Emperor's accident, followed by the crown prince's accident. If that was the case, it wasn't impossible for little Qing to make such a bold move in order to hide it from the entire imperial court. Dealing with the funeral, saving the emperor's brother, pacifying the imperial court, it was very likely that she was the one who did it. Yi Lingfeng turned around and immediately headed for the imperial study. He wanted to confirm whether he was her or not. But just as he reached the door, he was stopped. "May I ask what is the matter, young Master Yi?" The guard asked. "I want to see the crown prince." Yi Lingfeng anxiously replied. "The crown prince is busy with state affairs. He has already given the order that no matter who comes, he will not see. If young Master Yi has any matters, this subordinate can pass on the message." The guard said. "No need." Yi Lingfeng took a step back and turned around in a daze. He wasn't willing to see him. His lips hooked into a bitter smile. If he really was Shao Qing, then what he had said just now, Yi Lingfeng suddenly felt that he was hopeless. He has already left. The guard entered the hall to report. "This consort knows. You may leave." Dugu Qing walked back to the dragon throne with a pained and determined expression. "Yi Lingfeng. We can't be together anymore." Chapter 536. Chu Qingyan woke up from her dream and realized that she was already back in the inn. Furthermore, she was back on the bed that was made of ice. She rubbed her messy hair and got up, only to see Big Ice Cube, who was dressed neatly, playing chess with her. When he heard her get up, Xiao Su didn't turn around. He tapped the table and said, "Come and have breakfast after you wash up." "Okay." Chu Qingyan stretched lazily and got up to wash up. When she sat down and was about to eat, Xiao Su spoke. "Yi Lingfeng borrowed the token that Dugu Qing gave you this morning." "This morning?" Chu Qingyan looked at the dawn sky outside and couldn't help but feel confused. It was already early enough. This morning? Wasn't it even earlier? Yi Lingfeng seems to be very concerned about Sister Dugu, Chu Qingyan muttered as she tore off a piece of sesame seed cake and put it in her mouth. Her words reminded Xiao Su of the eagerness he had shown when he appeared in front of him this morning. Xiao Su put down the white chess piece and picked up the black chess piece. "I hope he can bring back good news." Chu Qingyan nodded. She hoped that Ethereal could cure Dugu Qing. If even Ethereal couldn't do it, then she couldn't think of anyone else who could. Chu Qingyan had just finished eating a piece of sesame seed cake when the door was pushed open and a beautiful figure rushed in. "I guessed you were here. Quick, come with me to see the love grass. It's about to sprout." As soon as she finished speaking, a hand grabbed Chu Qingyan's wrist and pulled her up. At first, Chu Qingyan was still shocked that someone would dare to barge into Big Ice Cube's room at this time. However, when she heard Qing Yanluo's voice, Chu Qingyan took the initiative and pulled Qing Yanluo out of the room. Okay, let's go." Hey, you're running in the wrong direction. My room is this way." Qing Yanluo shouted helplessly. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Quick. Chu Qingyan changed directions again. She had no choice. She was in too much of a hurry, so she couldn't distinguish between north, south, east, and west. Xiao Su listened to the noise outside the door. His ink-black eyes curved slightly. He put all the chess pieces in his hands into the box and got up to follow them. As soon as Chu Qingyan arrived at Qing Yanluo's room, she saw her parents, Turin, Huoling, and the others already gathered at the table. She was slightly surprised. It was just daybreak, so why was everyone up so early? However, Qing Yanluo was even more shocked. "How did all of you get in here?" "I walked in." Father Chu waved his hand impatiently at her and urged, "Little Yama, hurry up and make chow, grow taller." Cheng Yenluo facepalmed. Was it really okay to barge into someone else's room? "Little girl, don't you care? They're all yours." Chu Qingyan rubbed her nose. How were they all hers? Her father was hers, her mother was hers, Turin, sort of, Huoling, yes, turn around, and the big ice block standing behind her was also hers. Yes, they were all hers. Meow, Cheng Yenluo didn't have the time to bicker with them. She walked to the windowsill where she had placed a box. She opened the box and a small basin appeared inside. Cheng Yenluo carefully placed the small basin on the table. "I've already planted the seeds of the love grass in the basin. All we have to do now is wait for it to sprout." As soon as Cheng Yenluo finished speaking, someone raised a question. It was Father Chu. "Doesn't the grass need sunlight? If you put it in the room, won't it feel like it won't come out if it can't wait for warmth?" Cheng Yenluo replied, "The love grass doesn't need sunlight or rain because I've already buried the powder of various herbs in the soil. The love grass only needs to absorb the essence of these herbs to grow rapidly." Everyone nodded in understanding. "Oh, then won't it feel shy with so many of us gathered here?" Father Chu asked again. Cheng Yenluo's eyes twitched. "Then you can leave first." "No way. I want to see it grow taller." Father Chu turned his head away, hugged his arms, and pouted. He looked exactly like a stubborn child. Everyone expressed their frustration. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, everyone was still gathered around a pot of soil, concentrating. "Little Yama, is there something wrong with the grass? Why hasn't it come out yet?" Father Chu asked again. Cheng Yenluo was too tired to complain. At this moment, Chu Qingyan pulled her father in front of her and said gently, "It's because it's not full yet. It needs more nutrients to grow taller." Although her father's treatment was beginning to take effect, his condition was erratic. Sometimes, he still behaved like a child. As a child, if she couldn't help with the treatment, she could only be patient and take care of him. A tree wants to be still, but the wind won't stop. A child wants to be raised, but his parents are no longer around. Love had to be meticulous to the smallest detail. Great love didn't need words, much less small love. Isn't Kai Kai right? Mr. Chu turned to look at his son-in-law. Xiao Su was already used to being called out by Father Chu. He nodded. "That's right. It's great to have a son-in-law. It's great," Father Chu said proudly. Xiao Su accepted it calmly. Huo Ling was shocked. What was going on? He had only been away for a short month. Why did the interaction between Master and Father Chu change so quickly? Wasn't it too shocking? Chu Qingyan sighed helplessly. She was the one who answered the question, "All right? Why did she turn into a giant ice cube?" Chu Qingyan expressed her dissatisfaction. The wait was long. Fortunately, Father Chu was there to make jokes and jokes. It didn't feel like waiting was torturous. It's moving, it seems to be moving," Father Chu exclaimed. Everyone's eardrums were about to burst from his screams. Chu Qingyan shook her head and laughed. Her father was jumping around more happily than anyone else, but his observation skills weren't for show. Others hadn't noticed it, but he had. At this time, everyone was focused on the small basin. Even the active Father Chu was no exception. He put his hand to his lips, indicating for everyone not to speak. Otherwise, they would scare little Chow Chow. Everyone laughed at his words. However, when they saw the soil loosen and a small yellow head slowly grow out, everything was so slow that nothing happened. But in the blink of an eye, that thing grew a little. Everyone couldn't help but hold their breaths. Just like Father Chu said, they were afraid of scaring this little thing. After 2 hours, the love grass had already grown an inch. It had turned from yellow to green. Although they couldn't see its full appearance, it was very pleasing. It's growing so slowly. Father Chu muttered. It's even slower than when Dan Nyang gave birth to Caizai. His words swept away the gloomy atmosphere in the room. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. At this time, the love grass seemed to feel Father Chu's complaints and began to sprout with all its might. Chapter 537. The tender green strips began to grow longer one by one. After 2 hours, there were already nearly 11 green strips in the world. At this point, the love grass had stopped growing. After more than 6 hours, the love grass had finally completed its growth. So what should we do now? Chu Qingyan asked Cheng Yenluo as she looked at the lovely green love grass. Cheng Yenluo answered her question and looked at Xiao Su. It needs to be watered with blood until its leaves turn white. She didn't specify who it was, but everyone already knew what she meant. Can I use mine? Huo Ling stood up and asked with a firm expression. Cheng Yenluo shook her head. No, it must be the blood of the person who needs it. The best time for the love grass to grow is when it sucks the blood of the person it consumes. Then, the antidote will be formed in its body. When that time comes, it can be refined into a pill to cure the snake's kiss poison. Chu Qingyan was very surprised. It was like antibodies in the modern world. After the virus invaded, it would cause various immune cells to interact and form plasma cells. The plasma cells would secrete antibodies, and these antibodies would be able to eliminate the virus that invaded in the future. The love grass was like an intermediary. Big Ice Cube was watered with blood, and the blood contained the snake's kiss poison. The love grass would then form the antidote in the body. After Big Ice Cube took it, the snake's kiss poison would be eliminated. It was simply a sentient creature. If only there were such herbs in the modern world. Then, people with incurable diseases could use this method to produce life-saving medicine. Unfortunately, this was only a thought, because it was simply impossible to have. Just as she was feeling emotional, Xiao Su had already taken the dagger from Turin. Mr. Chu brought Mrs. Chu out for lunch. Before leaving, he patted his son-in-law's shoulder and comforted him. A real man should bleed and sweat, but not cry. Don't cry, it doesn't hurt at all. Then, he added, if it really hurts, just cry secretly. I'll pretend not to see it. After saying that, Mr. Chu left with Mrs. Chu. A conversation could be heard from afar. Yuan Lang, we can wait for the pill to come out before we eat. It's okay, I'm not that hungry, Mrs. Chu suggested. It's scary to cut your wrist. Dan Nyang, don't look. Mr. Chu pretended to be frightened. When you were injured in the past, I helped you a lot. Don't worry, I'm quite brave. Mrs. Chu smiled. Mr. Chu's voice suddenly, his voice softened. I don't want to see it. Just as he was about to cut his wrist, he suddenly paused. He turned to look at Chu Qingyan and said, don't look. Chu Qingyan's heart was already in her throat, but when she heard his words, she hid all her emotions. She looked up and smiled mischievously at him. I'm not afraid. Don't forget that my sword has tasted blood before. Xiao Su looked at her deeply, then looked away. The sharp blade cut across his wrist, and a red thread appeared on his wrist. It was enchanting but bright red. Then, blood flowed out and dripped onto the love grass. He didn't even blink during the process, as if it wasn't his hand that was cut. Chu Qingyan covered her left wrist as if she felt the same way. She didn't dare to look, but she didn't want to look away. Yen Luo had said that she could only stop watering the leaves until they turned white. If the love grass didn't turn white, it meant that she had to keep watering it and couldn't stop. Once she stopped, it would mean that all her efforts would be in vain. Chu Qingyan thought about this possibility, and her whole body tensed up like a thread. She didn't dare to miss the changes in the love grass. Cheng Yenluo and the others also held their breaths as they observed the love grass. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiao Su's face had become somewhat pale. However, he remained indifferent and maintained his previous posture. Chu Qingyan's heart ached. She thought that the last herb would be the antidote to the ice cube's poison. Who would have thought that this herb, which was the easiest to obtain, was the hardest to refine out of the three? Just as Chu Qingyan was about to bite her lip, the color of the love grass started to fade. It went from a verdant green to a tender green, to a light green, to a light yellow, and finally to a snowy white. Xiaosu hit the acupoints on his body, and the blood on his wrist stopped immediately. Chu Qingyan could not be bothered to look at the love grass. She immediately took out the medicine and gauze that she had prepared earlier and went over to bandage his wounds. After carefully bandaging his wound, Chu Qingyan looked up and saw the fine sweat on his head. She couldn't help but feel even more distressed. Normal people could donate 200 to 400 milliliters of blood, but the ice cube had lost more than that. She turned around and glared at the snowy white grass in the basin. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't sucked so much, my ice cube wouldn't have to work so hard." She didn't know if it was just her imagination, but she actually felt that the love grass had actually shrunk back. She rubbed her eyes and found that the love grass was stretching out its branches perfectly fine. She thought that she must have been too tired recently and was seeing things. After the bandaging was done, Chu Qingyan brought him some warm water and some brown sugar water for him to soothe his throat. Although Xiaosu didn't like this kind of sweet stuff, he still drank it when he saw her worried face. Sometimes, it wasn't the water that was sweet, but the intention. At this moment, Cheng Yenluo couldn't care less about Xiaosu. She looked at the pot of love grass that had changed color and couldn't bear to part with it. She looked left and right and her whole face was almost glued to it. "Sister Yenluo, what should we do next?" Chu Qingyan found that Yenluo had completely forgotten about them. Her face was full of black lines and she couldn't help but ask. Cheng Yenluo waved them away as if they were flies. She said to them, "There's nothing else now. You can go back and rest. I'll send the pills over after I've developed them." Chu Qingyan nodded and then helped the ice cube out of the door. However, when they went out, Chu Qingyan felt as if something was calling her. She turned around and saw the love grass in Cheng Yenluo's hand. She shook her head. She was too tired. Not only did she have hallucinations, but she also had auditory hallucinations. "Big ice cube, from today onwards, I'll nourish your body well. I'll definitely make up for all the blood you've lost," Chu Qingyan declared to him. Xiaosu just smiled. At this time, everyone hoped that the pills would be developed smoothly. They didn't want any accidents. Chapter 538. But to everyone's disappointment, that medicinal herb was indeed successfully developed, without any accidents. However, there was still a small interlude. Chu Qingyan supported Xiaosu back to the room. Actually, strictly speaking, she was the one who carried him back to the room. Although his complexion was a little pale, and he had lost a little more blood, his steps were firm, and he walked with the wind. It was completely impossible to tell that he was a person who had just bled. On the other hand, she had gathered too much mental energy earlier, and now that she had relaxed, her entire body was abnormally tired. Adding that she had slept late last night, and had woken up early this morning, her eyelids were already starting to droop, and she was indescribably tired. Xiaosu's hand was placed on her left wrist, and he rubbed that white gauze. Raising his head, he saw that her head was tilting bit by bit, as though if it tilted a little, she would fall over. He walked over, but she did not notice. He looked at his own left hand, and then used his right hand to lift her up, and then pulled her into his embrace. Finally, he brought her to the bed, and after covering her with a blanket, her peaceful face entered his eyes. "Little fellow, have a good sleep," he softly muttered. After planting the medicinal herb, they still had to wait for the medicine to be refined. The little fellow's mental state was so tense, he was afraid that it would be torturous later on. Why not let her sleep directly, and when she woke up, everything would be over. And Chu Qingyan, who had entered the land of dreams, was currently in the middle of the clouds. In front of her, there was an endless sea of rolling clouds, and behind her, it was still the same. She felt that it was very strange. Why did she suddenly appear here? At this moment, a familiar voice sounded from below. Big sister, look below, Kaofo is below. A child's voice cheerfully shouted. Hearing that, Chu Qingyan immediately lowered her head, and saw that the love grass that she had seen in her dream before had once again appeared in front of her. The little radish waved her hand towards her. Big sister, it's so good to be able to see you again. Kaofo thought that I wouldn't be able to see you one last time. Where are you going? Chu Qingyan blurted out, but she regretted it immediately. They needed to develop it into a pill, which meant that they had to give it to them. However, they told me that I have to accumulate merit before I can fly. I've waited for 300 years, but I've always been living in the Shang Kingdom's imperial palace. Those people have eyes but can't see that. They actually didn't bury me in the ground to sprout. So I used my thoughts to feel your obsession with me. I know that you're a kind-hearted person, so I recognized you as my master. That's why I came to you in your dreams and asked you to find me. So it's becoming an immortal. Congratulations, this is a good thing. As your master, you can just ignore it. After all, we used such a cruel method to treat you. I hope you can forgive us. We have our own difficulties. It's not fair to say this to you. Although we apologize, we still hurt you for no reason. Chu Qingyan blamed herself. Big sister, you're thinking too much. Our Love Grass clan is born at dawn and dies under the cold moon. Our lives are short, but we hope to do many meaningful things in this limited day. Saving the dying and helping the injured, that's our mission. Look, Kaofo's grandfather has already ascended. Father has also ascended. Mother has also ascended. Only Kaofo is left in the clan. If it wasn't for Big Sister's help, Kaofo wouldn't be able to reunite with her family. Love Grass's eyes shone brightly, and its face was filled with gratitude. Chu Qingyan didn't expect that they would inadvertently help Love Grass, but she still felt somewhat guilty. You're a good child. I thank you on behalf of my big ice cube. You're welcome. If it wasn't for your big ice cube's blood, I wouldn't have improved so much. If it wasn't for you being so anxious, I wouldn't have wanted to change my skin color so early. If I eat more, my power will increase. Love Grass's tone was filled with pity. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but pat its head. Little imp, you're so smart. Alright, Kaofo has to go. Death isn't the end, it's rebirth. Big sister, don't be sad. Goodbye. The love plant's body became transparent once again. It giggled without a care in the world. Is this a dream? Chu Qingyan saw that it was about to leave and couldn't help but ask. If Big Sister believes it, then it's not a dream. If Big Sister doesn't believe it, then it's just a dream. Meow, awu, alala, oh haha, Mwata Ascension Big Sister, we'll meet again if fate allows. As soon as it finished speaking, there was nothing in front of her. When she opened her eyes again, she was already at the top of the bed. Chu Qingyan got up and rubbed her temples. She dreamed of Love Grass again. Was it a dream? Or was it not? She couldn't tell anymore. Maybe it was just a dream she made up in her heart to not let herself feel guilty. If she believed it, then it was real. If she didn't believe it, then it wasn't. She still hoped that Kaofo could reunite with her family soon. Master, you're awake. Xining's joyful voice sounded. Chu Qingyan nodded and got off the bed. How long have I slept? Where's His Highness? Xining walked over, holding her outer clothes in her hands. She smiled and said, You've slept for more than 2 hours. His Highness told this servant not to wake you up, but you didn't expect you to wake up so early. His Highness should still be outside talking to Sir Turin. Chu Qingyan nodded. Then she felt that her stomach was empty, so she asked Xining to prepare some food. The advantage of staying at the inn was that whenever you wanted to eat, it could be delivered immediately. When Chu Qingyan was about to gorge herself on the food in front of her, Xiao Su had already walked in. Seeing her get up, he sat down in front of her. Big Ice Cube, have you eaten? If you haven't, let's eat together. If you've eaten, then eat a little more. With that said, she asked Xining to prepare another pair of chopsticks. No matter how Xiao Su answered, she wanted him to eat a little more. Xiao Su had indeed not eaten yet, so he did not refuse and the two of them ate together. Halfway through the meal, Xiao Su said, "Someone came from the palace today. The Crown Prince of Shang Country asked you to come to the palace when you have time." "Yes, yes." "Did he say anything?" Chu Qingyan was a little surprised. Could it be something to do with Duga Qing? The person who summoned her did not mention anything. Xiao Su shook his head. Then have young Master Yi and Ethereal returned? They had left early in the morning. Logically speaking, they should have returned by now. Someone from the palace sent a message on behalf of Ethereal, saying that her injuries are very troublesome and she will be staying for a while. Okay, then I'll go to the palace in the afternoon. Hearing that her injuries were troublesome, Chu Qingyan was a little worried. She wanted to go and take a look. As for the research of love grass, Yen Luo said that it would take at least a day, so she had time to go to the palace first. She heard that those who treated Duga Qing's illness did not return. She hoped that Ethereal would not follow in their footsteps. Chapter 539. After Chu Qingyan finished her meal, she brought Green Gourd and Liu Guang to the Shang Kingdom's imperial palace. It happened to be the afternoon when the crowd was the densest. Their carriage moved slowly through the bustling city. When they arrived at the Shang Kingdom's imperial palace, it was already evening. It seemed that the higher-ups had specially instructed for the guards to let her pass even though the token was in Yilingfeng's hands. There were already people waiting at the palace entrance. When they saw Chu Qingyan, they welcomed her and led her to a quiet palace. Joyous Clear Palace. This name sounded like a place where a woman lived. Chu Qingyan didn't understand why Duga Qing would choose this place to meet, but she felt that this person shouldn't have any ulterior motives towards her. As soon as this thought flashed through her mind, she felt that she was overthinking things. Duga Qing looked like an upright gentleman, and her thoughts were too dirty. Moreover, she vaguely felt that she was too familiar with this Duga Qing. When they arrived at the palace entrance, Green Gourd and Liu Guang were asked to stay outside. Chu Qingyan didn't think much and walked in. When the palace door closed behind her, Chu Qingyan saw the pink, green, and red decorations in front of her. She once again suspected that the person living here was actually a woman. When she turned her head, she saw the person sitting at the head of the table. Today, he was wearing a red palace robe. Sitting upright, he had a strong aura. This appearance made Chu Qingyan unsure whether this person was Duga Qing or not. "Qingyan greets your highness, the crown prince." She bowed. "Little Qingyan, there's no need to be so courteous. Rise." A bright voice came from above. It was a familiar address, a familiar voice, and a familiar tone. Chu Qingyan looked up in a daze. The person sitting in front of her had a familiar expression. "Your sister Dugu." Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. "Can't recognize me?" "It's just a change of clothes and a voice-changing pill." Dugu Qing stood up and slowly walked in front of her. Then, she raised her hand and patted her head like in the past. "Hey, don't keep hitting other people's heads. You'll become stupid." Chu Qingyan snatched her little head back from her hands. "Anyway, you have your big ice cube. He's wise and farsighted. No one can compare to him. What are you afraid of?" Dugu Qing played along with her. The scene replayed, and the conversation between the two of them appeared once again. Chu Qingyan forgot to react. She only reacted when she saw the mocking expression of the person in front of her. There were no two identical leaves in the world. It was the same even if they were twins. No matter how similar they were still different. Sister Dugu. Chu Qingyan's eyes reddened. Oh my, little Qingyan, I haven't seen you for half a month and you've become so soft and adorable. You cry when I poke you. Good, good, good. I'm fine. I don't feel bad at all. Dugu Qing's tone was teasing, but her hands had already unconsciously wrapped around her shoulders. The person who told her not to cry had a ripple in her eyes. Chu Qingyan heard her teasing and stubbornly said, "Who said I'm crying? It's just sand in my eyes. I'll be fine later." Dugu Qing couldn't help but laugh. So there's sand in my palace. Looks like the palace servants didn't clean it properly. I'll punish them later. Alright, I was too agitated. There's no sand. My eyes are running, not crying. Chu Qingyan harumphed. Alright. Running water is not crying. Dugu Qing rarely went along with her wishes. Then, she led her to walk around the palace. Little Qingyan, this is the palace you've lived in for more than 10 years. What do you think? My taste isn't bad, right? My taste is still very classy. Ever since Chu Qingyan learned the word classy, it was constantly on her lips. Chu Qingyan couldn't bear to discourage her, but as a good friend, she felt that she had the obligation to tell her the truth. I really don't want to scold you, but what the hell is red and green? Red and green are very good. Don't you think the colors are very bright? Isn't red flowers and green leaves like that? Dugu Qing's face was full of confusion. Chu Qingyan shook her head. No. There's a saying among the people. Red and green, it's bullshit. Yellow and purple, it's better to die. Listen, what a smooth proverb. The eyes of the masses are still as bright as snow. The corners of Dugu Qing's eyes twitched. Hearing her say that, her eyes were filled with red and green. It was really a bit uncomfortable to look at. She should get someone to replace it later. What an eyesore. The palace was very big, and the girls' things were very attractive. Moreover, every one of them was extremely exquisite and extravagant. This is a crystal bead that my imperial father had people bring back from another country. He said that this bead should be placed on the bed every night. At night, it will emit light and have the effect of moisturizing the skin. This is a rocking drum that my imperial father bought for me and my younger brother from a commoner's stall when he was incognito. At that time, there was a drawing of Chang Yi and Erlangshan on the drum. At that time, I was especially naughty and stole my younger brother's Erlangshan. Who told him to not respect the elderly and love the young? He didn't learn from Kong Rong and give away the pair, causing me to personally beat him up. Dugu Qing seemed to be immersed in her memories, and her tone also became lighter. Respect the elderly and love the young? You were only born a little earlier than him, and you're already flaunting your age? Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes at her. Having such a strong older sister, it was really her younger brother's misfortune. But as soon as her voice fell, Chu Qingyan could see the pain and sadness in her eyes. There's no other way. My imperial father dotes on me. He said that daughters should be raised with wealth and sons should be raised with poverty. So when he was young, the things that my younger brother enjoyed were worse than mine. However, that brat didn't care too much and would often give me the good things that he obtained. When Dugu Qing said this, there was a hint of joy and sorrow in her memories, as well as a touch of sadness. Chu Qingyan couldn't bear to see her sad because of the past, so she used a teasing tone to try and make her laugh. That's right, you have a good imperial father who dotes on you and a good younger brother who respects the elderly. That's right, but the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind won't stop. The child wants to be raised, but the parents are no longer around. My imperial father can no longer see me at this time, and I haven't even seen him for the last time. As she said this, tears fell down. She wouldn't forget that when she desperately rushed back, she saw him quietly lying on the bed with a blanket covering his body. His expression was so peaceful that it looked like he was just sleeping. But she knew that he would never wake up again. He wouldn't call out to her affectionately, "Xiaoqing, you're back." Since they met, this was the first time that Chu Qingyan had seen Du Guqing in such a sorrowful state. It was like the bright sky was covered in a thick layer of fog, making people feel sympathy and pity for her. Chu Qingyan couldn't help standing up and reaching out to hug her, letting her cry in her embrace. "If you're feeling uncomfortable, then vent it out. Don't force yourself to hold it in, or else you'll get sick." It wasn't that she didn't see the sadness under her forced smile. It wasn't that she didn't see the deep dark circles under her eyes. "You must be having a hard time holding it in. Then cry to your heart's content." Chapter 540. Her good friend's embrace and warmth finally allowed Du Guqing to let go of all her vigilance, all her wariness, and all her pretending to be strong. After Imperial Father left, younger brother was also sent back after being assassinated. "Little Qingyan, do you know that when I saw him being sent back covered in blood, my heart seemed to have died? After Imperial Father left, if something happened to younger brother, what would Imperial Mother and I do? The factions in the Imperial Court are eyeing covetously, and the concubines in the palace are ready to make a move. If there is no one to control the situation, I'm afraid that the 100 years of foundation of our Shang country will be destroyed in a day." For the past half a month, she forced herself to forget the pain, to be strong, and to use her own hands to protect her country and her family. Since the day she returned to the palace, when she saw her Imperial Mother fainted in front of Imperial Father's bed, she did not shed a single tear. 1,000 Li dike collapses because of an ant's hole. She was afraid that if she showed any weakness, she would not be able to stand up again. Imperial Father had taught them since they were young that people had 1,000 faces, and each face faced a different person. Only in this way could they shoulder the different responsibilities of the emperor, father, husband, and son. They had to play these roles well. So at the crucial moment, she could only step forward bravely. Chu Qingyan looked at Du Guqing, who was crying like a child in her arms, and could not help but empathize with her. The death of the emperor, and the serious injury of the crown prince, was enough to be a disaster for a country. But Du Guqing, with the weak shoulders of a woman, held up the collapsed sky, gritted her teeth and endured, and saved the situation. Her heroic spirit made people respect her. This kind of woman was truly worthy of being called a woman who was not inferior to men. Chu Qingyan's heart was full of admiration for her. It was just that this spirit was too heavy. It bore too much pain, blood, and disaster. If she was not careful, it would crush that weak shoulder. She felt sorry for her. Previously, in everyone's eyes, she was as bright as the sun in the sky. When she smiled, she was like a blooming flower. When she played tricks on people, she was as cunning as a fox. When she helped her friends, she did not hesitate, and was as carefree as a child. Now, she was dressed in a palace robe, her beautiful eyebrows were slender and sharp, and she was 70% cold and 30% smiling. Her lively temperament had been restrained, and her heart was filled with deep worry. She no longer had the sweet laughter from before. Because there was a comparison, there was a difference. It was also because of this difference that made people feel sorry for her. Chu Qingyan thought about her current situation and felt even more worried. She couldn't help but ask. "Why didn't you acknowledge us in the palace yesterday?" Du Guqing wiped her tears and smiled helplessly. "I really want to reunite with you. From the moment I saw you step into the palace, I have been suppressing the surging emotions in my heart. But I don't dare, and I can't. I pretended to be the emperor's younger brother and took charge of the situation to stabilize the court. My identity could not be revealed. Otherwise, those with bad intentions would take the opportunity to cause trouble. I was criticized and despised by the world. This is fine. But if the news of the emperor's serious injury and coma spread, Shang country would be in chaos. Then, the efforts of mother and I would be wasted." Du Guqing sighed. Her identity was only known by her imperial mother, Zhang Kai, and the imperial physician of the imperial hospital. No one else knew about it. Her imperial mother's spirit had been weak for the past 2 days, and Zhang Kai was only a subordinate. She felt helpless and lonely, and didn't know who to confide in. When she heard that little Qing Yan and the others had arrived in Shang country, she couldn't wait to see them. Subconsciously, she had already treated them as her good friends. It's been hard on you. Chu Qingyan imitated Big Ice Cube's usual actions and caressed her back. Then, she said, no wonder there were rumors that the imperial physicians couldn't leave the palace. It's because they all know that the one lying on the bed is the real crown prince, and the one outside is the princess pretending to be the crown prince. And, I had no choice. It's a pity that the emperor's injury did not get better. Instead, it got worse. If it wasn't for the many life-prolonging plasters in the national treasury, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to survive these few days. When Duguqing said this, her tears unconsciously flowed down. You have already done very well during this period of time. You have done better than anyone else in this position. So, don't be sad and blame yourself. Chu Qingyan could feel her fear and could not help but soften her voice to comfort her. After comforting her, Chu Qingyan asked, if the crown prince doesn't get better, what do you plan to do? Duguqing's watery eyes lit up with determination. If he doesn't wake up, I will keep on doing this. As the princess of Shang country, I should have the awareness to sacrifice everything for the country and the people. These words shocked Chu Qingyan instantly. Compared to Duguqing, she was still lacking. She didn't have her courage, her boldness, nor her determination. But after saying those words, this strong girl revealed a trace of weakness and helplessness. But little Qingyan, ethereal will cure him, right? It will, right? This world was too cold and lonely. She didn't want to continue walking alone. She wanted her brother to be well, and wanted her mother to be well. Even if she had to give up everything, she wouldn't hesitate. It will. You have to believe that there are true feelings in the world. Miracles exist because of persistence. Chu Qingyan stroked her long hair and told her in a firm tone. At the same time, she was telling herself that persistence equaled hope. Okay. The clear voice was already choked with sobs. Chu Qingyan's eyes couldn't help but redden. After the two of them calmed down a lot, Chu Qingyan took the initiative. She sat down and poured a cup of tea for Duguqing to moisten her throat. Then, she cut to the chase. You didn't want to acknowledge us, but you asked me to come here today. Did you run into trouble? Duguqing admired her observation skills. No one would believe that such an intelligent girl was only a little over 10 years old. But it was also because of her intelligence that she revealed her identity. Yes, I need your help. I didn't want to ask you. Our Shang country looks peaceful on the surface, but it's turbulent on the inside. I shouldn't have pulled you into this whirlpool, but she wasn't a qualified person to hold power. She could only barely maintain the peace on the surface and not fall apart. But she was worried that after a while, if her brother didn't wake up, she wouldn't be able to control the situation. Everything would turn to ashes. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have asked you. Your identities are too sensitive. It's not suitable for you to get involved. After saying this, Duguqing regretted. She regretted that she had caused trouble for little Qingyan. Just as she was regretting, she felt something warm on her hand. She looked down and saw a small hand on the back of her hand. Then, she held it tightly. She looked up in surprise. She saw the bright girl smiling brightly. Her voice was as crisp as spring water. If a friend is in trouble, I'll definitely help. So, you're not alone. After crying, please be strong. The smile on her face was dazzling. Chapter 541. Chu Qingyan's unreserved support caused Duguqing's tears to fall like rain. I never thought that the so-called friends I made in the noble circles of Shang country would all avoid me when I encountered such a calamity. They were afraid that their power would be overturned and they would be implicated if they were careless. But you, who I've known for less than 3 months, supported me without hesitation at such a dangerous time and did not leave me. I don't know what to say to thank you. Duguqing gripped her hand, her tone sorrowful and emotional. Chu Qingyan gave a pitiful smile. She said emotionally, when you become a person above others, your friends know you. When you are in trouble, it is you who know your friends. This acquaintance was not the other way around. No matter, I believe that this calamity will be overcome. When the time comes, it will be too late for them to regret. I like this kind of face-slapping plot the most, Chu Qingyan said lightly and teasingly, wanting her to relax and not be hurt by these things. Little Qingyan, thank you. It's good to know you. Duguqing wiped her tears and gave a smile from the bottom of her heart. Of course, I am loved by everyone, the flowers bloom when they see me, the grass worships when they see the grass. Little Wang Fei is happy. In order to make Duguqing happy, she even used the catchphrase that she didn't understand when she was young. She was crying from laughter inside. How could Duguqing not know her thoughts? She put away her sadness and returned to being the handsome and calm His Highness the Crown Prince. Dugujijia, oh no, I'll call you Your Highness the Crown Prince in case the walls have ears. Chu Qingyan stuck out her tongue and then her expression turned serious. What do you need me to help you with? I hope you can pretend to be someone. Duguqing looked at her with the same serious expression. Who? Chu Qingyan frowned and asked seriously. My grandfather's granddaughter, Lu Hejuan, she's also my cousin. At the same time, she's also my brother's future wife. However, my grandfather and cousin Hejuan's family are all at the border of Shang country and 200,000 soldiers are under his control. I don't know why, but 10 days ago, I sent a letter to him, hoping that he could rush back to the capital and help me. However, he didn't reply even after a long time. I suspect that the letter has been cut off. If cousin Hejuan can appear in the imperial palace at this time, it means that my grandfather already knows about this matter and the army is on the way. Those people who are pressuring me inch by inch will have some fear. At least in the short term, I will have time to plan. Although their father had taught them a lot about how to deal with politics, they had never really fought with swords and spears. When she understood the situation, she was already surrounded on all sides. Plus, she only had the palace guards and 30,000 soldiers guarding the city. How could she fight against the 100,000 soldiers that third uncle secretly raised? Third uncle colluded with concubine Mei and wanted to support third brother to become the emperor. His goal was already clear. Now, he was spreading all kinds of unfavorable rumors about Duguqing, the crown prince. The officials and people who didn't know what was going on were all stirred up. Gradually, there were calls for the crown prince to be dethroned and replaced. If this situation was allowed to spread, then it would really be difficult to do anything. Not only third uncle, but fourth brother was also ready to make a move. Recently, he had been trying to get the officials to work for him. Plus, his mother's family was a famous family in Shang country. More than 20% of the officials in the court were his grandfather's students. So, it was a piece of cake for him to get those officials to work for him. The position of the crown prince was slowly being pulled down. Third prince and fourth prince's positions were superior. The court gradually became a tripartite balance of power. After Duguqing finished analyzing the current situation to Chu Qingyan, she said in a self-reproachful tone, if it was Qing, he would not have given them the chance to take advantage of the situation. Emperor Father once said that Qing is a rare talent that only appears once in 100 years in the Shang nation. If not for those bastards, he would not have. Her words were stuck in her throat. She closed her eyes and didn't continue. The most important thing for her now was not to be swayed by these emotions. Chu Qingyan encouraged her. Don't be sad. Cousin, right? I'll do it. But with my height and age. Suddenly, Chu Qingyan hesitated. Wasn't her appearance a little too young? Don't worry. My little cousin is only 13 years old. She was betrothed to my brother when she was still in the womb. Your height is about the same as a 13-year-old. You just need to make your eyes thicker. She hasn't been back to the capital for 3 years. So, you don't have to worry about people recognizing you. Duguqing explained with a smile. Duguqing looked to be 16, so Duguqing should be 16 too. Lu Hejuan was only 13. Did the ancient people really like to betroth children? And there was such a big age gap. That's not right. She and Big Ice Cube laughed so hard that they cried. That's not a problem. I just have to pretend to be his little cousin for a few days. This is an opportunity to eat and drink in the palace. I can't miss it. Chu Qingyan said it lightly, but she knew that this identity was very tricky. It could be easily erased. However, she had someone backing her up. So, she wasn't afraid. Speaking of this, Chu Qingyan thought for a while and said, I'll go back and tell Big Ice Cube later. Then, I'll wait for your notice. Okay. I'll seal off the news of your 2 visits to the palace. Don't let anyone find out about your whereabouts. Also, be careful. Duguqing said solemnly. Yes, Your Highness. Chu Qingyan smiled mischievously at her. Chu Qingyan was about to leave when she heard Duguqing call her name. She couldn't help but turn back and ask, is there anything else? Take Yi Lingfeng with you. If there's nothing else, don't let him enter the palace. Duguqing hesitated for a moment before saying. Why? Are you afraid of rekindling old feelings? Chu Qingyan teased. Duguqing glared at her. If it weren't for our friendship, I'd beat you up. Chu Qingyan shrugged. At this moment, a palace servant came to report, young Master Yi wants to see Your Highness. Chu Qingyan winked at her. You two have a good talk. Fate doesn't come easy. During this period, he missed you so much that he didn't eat or drink. Everyone makes mistakes. The first time can be forgiven. If you can't, you can beat him up to vent your anger. But don't wrong yourself. Why do I feel that you're as long-winded as my mother? You're so mischievous. Duguqing snorted. This is called being smart and understanding, Chu Qingyan said openly, trying to flatter herself. So that's why you're so thick-skinned. After Duguqing finished speaking, she said to the palace servant, bring him to the front hall. I'll be there in a moment. Yes. After the palace servant left, Duguqing threatened Chu Qingyan, I'll skin you when I come back. Then, she left. Chu Qingyan looked at her back and slowly restrained her mischievous smile. I hope that lovers will find their way together. Chapter 542. Duguqing came to the front hall and the first thing she saw was Yi Lingfeng's tall and straight figure. She could still remember the first time they met on the street. Through the crowd, she could see this youth at a glance. He was confident and unrestrained, his peach blossom eyes overflowing with light. Just one glance was enough to make people unable to resist being attracted. Now, the world had changed. She stood behind him, but it was like there was a sea of people between them, making it impossible for her to approach him. Which family's youth was so outstanding in the past? The tip of his brow, when the elegance fell, it filled the ground with peach blossoms. Duguqing was a bit absent-minded. Right at this moment, Yi Lingfeng seemed to have sensed her presence and slowly turned around. Xiaoqing. He looked into her eyes and gently called out. The confident and beautiful youth in front of her had purple eyebrows and a tall figure. He was like a jade tree in front of the wind. Just a slight frown or a smile was enough to make a young girl fall in love with him. Not to mention the current him, with his gentle tone and deep emotions in his eyes, it was even more moving. In the past, Duguqing had always longed for Yi Lingfeng to treat her gently and lovingly. Even if it was just once, it was fine. But after she confessed to him for the last time, she already knew that this desire was just an extravagant hope. But the current Duguqing only thought about her family and the world. She only wished for her family's safety and did not think about anything else. But when the person who had ruthlessly forced her to let go of him stood in front of her again and gently called her Xiaoqing, she was in a daze for a moment. What she had longed for in the past, now that she saw it, her heart was already calm. Because her heart was already riddled with holes, what he said to her no longer had much effect. Young Master Yi, you must have mistaken me for someone else. Although my royal sister and I look alike, we are not the same person. Du Guqing walked past him and sat down in the main seat. Her expression had already returned to normal as she shook her head with a smile. In the past, Yi Lingfeng had played around in all sorts of places. His ability to observe people's expressions had long been trained to the point of perfection. When he saw that although she had a smile on her lips, the smile did not reach her eyes. His eyes flashed slightly. Xiaoqing was unwilling to acknowledge him. This fact made his heart clench. Xiaoqing, you don't have to hide it from me. The one lying on the bed is the real crown prince. Yi Lingfeng was worried that she would deny it again, so he continued, I've already met with Ethereal. He told me that the person inside is a man, and he looks very much like you. Are you still trying to lie to me? Who would have thought that he would be so persistent in poking through the window paper? Du Guqing was puzzled. Was this answer important? Was it really that important whether she was Du Guqing or not? But what was the point of these answers? Du Guqing smiled, her eyes cold. Young Master Yi, what does it have to do with you whether I am the real crown prince or not? The alienation in her eyes pierced his eyes deeply. What does it matter? Of course it was related. Because he cared about her and didn't want anything to happen to her. He didn't want anything to happen to her. But he already knew that she was Du Guqing and not Du Guqing, so why did he have to expose her? He knew that she was very good. He just needed to look at her from afar. Why did he have to argue with her about whether she was real or fake? Yi Lingfeng, are you really just trying to prove the truth and not have any other reasons? Seeing that he was slightly stunned, Du Guqing sneered, since it doesn't matter, I still have important matters to deal with. Then I would like to ask young Master Yi to return first. Wait. Yi Lingfeng suddenly spoke. Du Guqing stopped in her tracks and turned around to look at him. She smiled appropriately, young Master Yi, is there anything else? Whether you are Du Guqing or not, it matters to me. He knew why he was so persistent. Actually, he just wanted to talk to her again and return to the days when they were together. The smile on Du Guqing's face disappeared and was replaced by a faint sneer. It was unknown whether it was self-deprecating or something else. She said, that's right, I am Du Guqing. But you have nothing to do with me. Du Guqing felt that there was no point in beating around the bush. He would know her identity sooner or later. Since that was the case, it was better to cut the Gordian knot and prevent any accidents. Little Qing, I want to say sorry to you. Regarding the past, I have let you down. If possible, can you give me, before Yi Lingfeng could finish his words, she interrupted him. Du Guqing looked at him sadly, Yi Lingfeng, do you think there's any use in saying this now? Moreover, what I wanted was your wholehearted feelings, not your pity now. Yes, my father passed away, my younger brother was seriously injured, and there were internal and external troubles. It's very dangerous, but it's not to the point that I need your pity. He didn't like her. Then was there a need for her to waste time and energy on him? The answer was that there was no need. So she didn't accept his emotional charity. Actually, I found that in the days when you weren't around, I found that I had unknowingly fallen in love with you. But it was too late. Yi Lingfeng, let's part on good terms. I'm very sorry for pestering you in the past and causing you trouble. I won't disturb you in the future. Du Guqing took a deep breath and said word by word. When I naively fell in love with someone, he told me that he didn't have a heart. This might be the most ridiculous and naive thing I did in the first half of my life. But I'm still very grateful to you. If you don't fall, you won't get up. She clearly heard that her heart was being torn apart. She clearly said that she wouldn't care anymore. Why did it still hurt so much? Liking someone might be just a look. Forgetting someone might take a lifetime. Yi Lingfeng felt the alienation and coldness from her. His eyes dimmed. Sure enough, he had hurt her too deeply. Even though he had thousands of words to tell her, but at this moment, his throat felt like it was choked with a fishbone, and he couldn't open his mouth. Yi Lingfeng, although we didn't help each other in times of need, let's forget about each other in the pugilistic world. You can be your carefree wanderer, and I'll be my Shang princess. Don't let yourself be wronged because of sympathy for me. Du Guqing smiled at him, and then turned around. Yi Lingfeng clenched his fists. At this moment, his heart was tumbling like a river. He didn't know how to explain to her that he didn't come to find her because of sympathy. That pair of peach blossom eyes hid deep and unfathomable emotions. They flowed secretly, but he couldn't say it out loud. Du Guqing walked out of the hall step by step with her back facing him. Tears streamed down her face, but her steps were firm. She was the Shang princess. Her country was in danger, so she had to carry out her mission. Love and love have nothing to do with me anymore. My life is the country and the world. Chapter 543. When Chu Qingyan and Yi Lingfeng sat in the car on the way back, she could clearly feel the desolation and loneliness coming from him. It was as if he had lost his most precious treasure. Seeing him like this, she couldn't help but think of Du Guqing whom she had met in the palace. She was also in a soulless state the moment she returned. She couldn't help but sigh. In this world, there were so many people. Even if you broke your head, you wouldn't be able to get a chance to leave. Looking at the two of them falling in love at this moment, as a bystander, Chu Qingyan felt both heartache and pity. She was only a bystander. Whoever started the trouble should end it. If they still loved each other, then there was still hope. However, Ruoxin was already dead. There was no turning back. Luckily, her big ice cube had been single for so long and hadn't been enlightened yet. Otherwise, if he was hurt by a relationship, he would have a headache. As she thought about it, the carriage had already arrived at the inn. Coincidentally, everyone was in Big Ice Cube's room. What's so lively? Chu Qingyan asked with a smile the moment she entered. Cheng Yanluo waved at her and said with a smile, "Little girl, you're back just in time. Look, what's this?" As she said that, she opened her hand. Chu Qingyan heard that and curiously leaned over. She saw a crystal-clear pill lying quietly in her hand. When she got close, she could even smell the strong fragrance of grass in the air. She couldn't help but be surprised. This is... That's right, this is the pill refined from the love grass. I didn't expect it to be so successful. I thought that the first development would be a failure. Luckily, the heavens took pity on me and I'm smart and intelligent. Cheng Yanluo praised herself once before putting the pill back into the bottle and generously handing it to her. Here, this is for your big ice cube. Take this pill and the poison will be neutralized in less than an hour. The poison will be neutralized. The poison will be neutralized. The poison will be neutralized. This sentence kept repeating in Chu Qingyan's mind. She widened her eyes, and her fingers trembled as she held the bottle. She lowered her head to look at it. Cheng Yanluo looked at her dazed expression and couldn't help but rub her nose. Something was wrong. Why wasn't she wild with joy? Why did she look like she had been knocked silly? What was wrong with the little girl? At this moment, Chu Qingyan suddenly jumped up. The dazed look on her face disappeared and turned into wild joy. She found Xiao Su's direction and flew over, throwing herself into his arms. Big Ice Cube, you're saved. There was hope. There was hope. He's really saved. Xiao Su pulled the person who suddenly turned around and hugged him into his arms. Yes, we're saved. Huo Ling and the others looked at the young princess who suddenly jumped up. Countless black lines slid down their foreheads. It was only a distance of 3 steps, but the young princess actually used her qinggong. It was simply shocking. However, as his trusted subordinates, they were also very excited that their master was able to neutralize the poison. For example, Turan was already moving his 10 fingers, planning to have a fist fight with Qin Gua to vent his excitement and joy. For example, Huo Ling was swinging his arms and legs, planning to fly a few laps in the night before returning. In any case, this group of fierce cavalry was very serious at the crucial moment. When they shouldn't be serious, they weren't serious at all. Compared to Xiao Su's indifference, Chu Qingyan could be said to be bewitched. Compared to Huo Ling and the others, she couldn't compare. She watched as Xiao Su swallowed the pill. When Qing Yanluo finished checking his pulse and announced that he had neutralized the poison, she suddenly laughed out loud. Everyone was taken aback by her actions. Huo Ling and Turan looked at each other. Could it be that their master had neutralized the poison and the young princess was so happy that she went crazy? That wouldn't do. Huo Ling shouted in his heart. Young princess, come back quickly. Don't go crazy with happiness. However, the words that came out of Chu Qingyan's mouth made everyone unable to restrain their laughter. Ha ha ha, I can go play with Big Ice Cube now. I want to climb high. I want to dive. I want to admire the flowers. I want to go boating. I want all of them. Chu Qingyan circled around the room, jumping up and down. It felt like she couldn't stop. How happy she was represented how much she desired before. What she desired wasn't to go sightseeing, but to be with the person by her side. After everyone laughed, they dispersed. Since their master had been neutralized, they had to pass this news back to the fierce cavalry who were just as worried as them. They stopped searching for medicinal herbs on hand and waited for the next step. Before Father Chu left, he walked in front of Xiao Su with a serious look in his eyes. Son-in-law, the poison has been neutralized, but you can't casually play with people in the future. Otherwise, you'll have to look for medicinal herbs again, do you understand? Father Chu's words were very casual, but Xiao Su still nodded in agreement. Although Chu Machen's father always spoke incoherently, Chu Machen was already used to his father-in-law's concern, who was as naive as a child. Chu Machen's father left in satisfaction when he heard his son's reply. The people in the room left one by one, leaving behind only Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su. The little fellow was no longer jumping up and down at this time. She suddenly calmed down with her back to him. Xiao Su was puzzled by her behavior. It was inconceivable that such a lively and active person would suddenly become quiet. But now that the snake's kiss poison had been neutralized, the heavy burden in his heart was lifted and his entire body relaxed. Thus, he smiled and wanted to talk to her. Just as he opened his mouth, he saw her suddenly turn around and pounce on him at lightning speed. He faintly saw a flash of tears in the corner of her eyes. He was stunned and she had already pushed him back 2 steps. Just as he was about to ask what happened, he felt the front of his clothes slightly wet. His heart trembled slightly. Little fellow, what's wrong? Did someone make things difficult for you in the Shang Empire's palace? The first thing he thought of was what happened to her in the Shang Empire's palace. The person in his arms shook her head. No, I'm too excited. I'm very happy, but I just want to cry. The huge surge of emotions drowned all the worries in her heart. Then, she was surrounded by the surprise of the big ice cube being neutralized. The thing that you've been thinking about all day, the thing that you've dreamt of, suddenly you'll be wild with joy. But after the huge surge of emotions, you'll start to wonder if it's just a dream. Because your obsession is too deep, you'll hallucinate. Chu Qingyan raised her head, sparkling tears rolling down from her big eyes. Am I dreaming? The boiling temperature fell on his chest, penetrating his skin and reaching the depths of his heart. He always thought that his blood was cold, but today, he realized that the blood in his body could also be boiling because of a person. Although she was still young. Xiaosu couldn't help but lower his head and place a feather-light kiss between her eyebrows with incomparable tenderness. It's real, it's not a dream. He curved his lips and smiled. It's really not a dream. If it's not a dream, why would the big ice cube kiss her? She must be dreaming. Chapter 544. Chu Qingyan did not expect that she would blurt out her thoughts. Because she had already seen the big ice cube's darkened appearance. Cough cough, she immediately jumped out of his arms to remedy the situation. Congratulations, the big ice cube's poison has been neutralized. Congratulations to me too, I can start touring the mountains and rivers. She touched her head, hoping that it was not too late. Xiaosu flicked his sleeves and sat back on the chair, ignoring her words. Chu Qingyan was stunned. The big ice cube also had such a childish side. It was as if the sun rose in the west and red rain fell from the sky. But at this time, Chu Qingyan had also regained her composure. As a martial artist, it was not good to experience great joy and sorrow. Big ice cube, look, where there is a will, there is a way. We have finally completed the last step of our long journey. Her tone was rather emotional. Xiaosu's face warmed slightly. This journey has been hard on you. Whether it was seeking medical treatment or obtaining the red stone fruit, ice crystal flower, and love grass, if it were not for this little fellow, he would have already reincarnated. He did not forget the little girl who crawled on top of him at that time. When she smiled, she revealed a curved crescent moon. She was innocent and carefree. Now, she was like a bamboo shoot after the rain, growing taller and taller. Her smile was still bright and her eyes were bright. She had shed her naivety and learned to protect herself. He had witnessed her growth along the way. 1 year had already been like this. Perhaps in 3 or 4 years, she would transform into a butterfly. He was looking forward to how far this little fellow would grow in the future. No matter when and where, he would accompany her and witness her growth. Chu Qingyan found that he was actually looking at her in a daze and felt a sense of defeat. Although she was still young and her beauty could not be seen, it was not to the point where people would be in a daze just by looking at her. Could it be that the big ice cube standards were too high? Chu Qingyan felt very sad in her heart. But at this time, she did not forget what she had promised Dugu Qing. She pulled herself together and interrupted his thoughts. She raised her smiling face and spoke in riddles. Big ice cube, guess who I saw when I went to the palace today? Dugu Qing. Xiaosu raised his eyebrows. How do you know? Chu Qingyan originally wanted to give him a surprise, but did not expect that he was right. I guessed. Xiaosu smiled. When she came back, her footsteps were light, and it was obvious that she was in a good mood. Previously, she had been worried about Dugu Qing's injuries, but now, her face was relaxed, so he guessed that she had met Dugu Qing, and it was a Dugu Qing who seemed to be in good condition. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but admire the big ice cube's wisdom. She stopped smiling and told him about how Dugu Qing had pretended to be Dugu Qing to save the Shang kingdom. After saying that, she couldn't help but sigh. If I were in your shoes, I might not be able to be as persevering and courageous as elder sister Dugu. Truly admirable. For a woman to be able to do this, it is indeed admirable. Xiaosu nodded. Chu Qingyan did not forget about what she had promised Dugu Qing today, so she said to him, elder sister Dugu has a plan, which is to let me pretend to be Dugu Qing's fiancé, Lu Hejuan, and then use the Chen family's prestige to intimidate those rebels who are ready to make a move. What do you think? No. Xiaosu rejected the idea without even thinking about it. Why? Is it because this plan won't work? Chu Qingyan's face was anxious. Her big ice cube was good at strategizing, and since he said that, there must be a reason. If the big ice cube rejected it, then how was elder sister Dugu going to intimidate those rebels? An unnatural expression appeared on Xiaosu's face when he heard her question. Just now, he did not consider the plan itself, but because he heard that she was going to pretend to be someone else's fiancée, he suddenly felt unhappy and rejected it without thinking. Actually, he felt that there was no problem with this plan. But there was a problem with this person. He was not willing. You agreed to her? Xiao Su asked as if he did not hear her question. Yes. Chu Qingyan nodded honestly, but she was confused. What did the big ice cube mean? This little fellow actually agreed without asking him. This knowledge made Xiao Su even more unhappy. Let her change to someone else. Xiao Su said firmly. That won't do. The only person who fits the criteria and can be trusted by her side is me. At this time, it is better to entrust the person closest to you, right? Chu Qingyan was a little troubled. She was worried about Du Guqing, so she did not notice her big ice cube's awkward mood. Xiao Su frowned and did not speak again. Instead, he thought for a moment and called out to Turan outside the room. Turan instantly appeared in the room. Master, what orders do you have? Xiao Su did not think and directly said, I want a list of all the people who are enemies with Du Guqing and want to usurp the throne, as well as the number of soldiers they have and the deployment of the city defense in the Shang nation. I want to see all the information by tomorrow afternoon. Yes. Turan immediately replied. Chu Qingyan did not react. Big Ice Cube, what are you doing? Weren't they talking about impersonating Lu Hejuan? Why did the conversation suddenly change? She did not understand. You can't tell. Xiao Su raised his brows. Chu Qingyan heard this and a bold guess appeared in her mind. Don't tell me you want to do it yourself, why not? Since there was nothing to do and the little fellow cared so much about this Du Guqing, then he would help her complete this friendship and find something for the fierce cavalry to do. Recently, these piercing cavalry had nothing to do and had been complaining that grass was about to grow on their heads. He would take this opportunity to pull them out for training. No matter how sharp a knife was, if it was not constantly sharpened, it would rust. Chu Qingyan was overjoyed. She took a deep breath and her eyes glistened. Big Ice Cube, you're the best. Actually, she had thought of asking the Big Ice Cube for help, but she could not bring herself to do it. Because she wouldn't take advantage of her harmonious relationship with Big Ice Cube to use this method to kidnap him to do something for her. The Big Ice Cube had been in this kind of scheming all year round and was probably tired of this kind of life. Why should she make him work so hard? However, she did not expect the Big Ice Cube to take the initiative to ask. This made her very surprised and happy. Unfortunately, Chu Qingyan did not expect that the reason why Xiao Su had this idea was because he thought that she belonged to him. How could he let others touch her, even if it was an impersonation? Chu Qingyan did not know that her Big Ice Cube was already so possessive at this time. She could imagine that when she grew up, the two were deeply in love, but it was a pity that they did not know. They only knew how to silently sacrifice for each other. Chapter 545. Cheng Yanluo said that Big Ice needed a good rest after detoxifying the snake's kiss poison, so Chu Qingyan didn't want to disturb him and left his room. The fact that Big Ice Cube was willing to help Du Guqing made her feel relieved. From what she knew, with such a strong opponent like Big Ice Cube, those who had bad intentions would be wiped out in a matter of minutes. She had wanted to borrow some men from Xiao Lai Qi to help, but now she didn't need to. Chu Qingyan broke into a smile, and her footsteps became lighter. But just as she turned the corner, a godlike person appeared in front of her. Chu Qingyan almost bumped into her. Fortunately, her martial arts had improved recently and she reacted quickly, so she avoided the disaster. She looked up and saw Yanluo. Sister Yanluo, why are you standing here? Are you sleepwalking? It was already late at night, and Chu Qingyan couldn't help but ask when she saw Gu Ruoyan standing there motionlessly. Cheng Yanluo heard her teasing, but she didn't play with her as usual. Instead, she looked worried and hesitated. Finally, she spoke as if she had made a decision. The moment she finished speaking, Chu Qingyan realized that something was wrong with her. Seeing how conflicted she was, Chu Qingyan stopped smiling. Then, just as she was about to suffocate from her expression, she heard her question. Didn't he go to the palace early this morning? Why hasn't he come back yet? Cheng Yenluo didn't mention his name, but Chu Qingyan immediately understood. Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up. Wow, it was rare to see Yenluo so concerned about Ethereal. Could it be that the two of them had developed some kind of relationship while she was so busy these past few days that her feet barely touched the ground? At this moment, Chu Qingyan came up with an idea. She looked at her innocently and pretended not to understand. Sister Yenluo, who are you talking about? I don't understand. Cheng Yenluo knew that she was being deliberately mischievous, but at this time, she needed her answer. She could only grit her teeth and listen to her. Who else? It's Murong-ju. You mean Ethereal, he. Sigh. Chu Qingyan's face suddenly changed and she sighed with a little helplessness. If it was any other day, Cheng Yenluo would have seen through her clumsy acting. Unfortunately, she was too concerned at this time. She was frightened by Chu Qingyan's expression. What do you mean? What's wrong with him? Is the crown prince of the Shang kingdom unwilling to let him go? She had heard that doctors couldn't leave the palace of the Shang kingdom. Could it be that Murong-ju was also imprisoned? Seeing her like this, Chu Qingyan couldn't help laughing in her heart. It was so fun to tease a person. No wonder Yenluo and Du Guqing liked to tease her so much before. However, at this time, the show had to be completed. Chu Qingyan lowered her eyes and looked sad. After I entered the palace today, I wanted to see Ethereal and ask about Sister Dugu's injury. Unexpectedly, the guards said that all the doctors who entered the palace were detained to prevent them from revealing the princess's condition. I asked when they could be released, and then the guards said, Chu Qingyan paused and glanced at her, but didn't dare to continue. Cheng Yenluo's face was slightly pale. She grabbed Chu Qingyan's shoulder and asked in a panic, what did they say? Tell me quickly. Damn it, I'm dying of anxiety at this time. Chu Qingyan was about to fall apart from being shaken by her. She immediately raised her hand to stop her boorish behavior. Then, she replied dizzily, he said that the princess can only be released after she recovers. But my ass. Cheng Yenluo exploded. When did the little girl become so hesitant? She was so anxious. Chu Qingyan felt that she really couldn't hold back her laughter, but she still stood her ground, because she was a qualified little matchmaker. But the guards said that if anything happened to the princess, all these people would be buried with her. Even Ethereal is no exception. This is the imperial order. Chu Qingyan's voice was no longer trembling, and she said it all in one breath. Then, as soon as she finished speaking, there was dead silence. Chu Qingyan was relieved. But when she saw Yenluo's pale face, she felt that this joke had gone too far. But she felt that it was not a good idea for the two of them to continue wasting their time there. It was better to give her a strong medicine. Maybe she could be revived. Therefore, his guilt vanished in an instant. It can't be. His medical skills are so high. Even father said that he is the most intelligent disciple he has ever taken in, Cheng Yenluo mumbled. It was as if she was saying this to Chu Qingyan, but at the same time, it was as if she was comforting herself. Chu Qingyan saw this and couldn't help but sigh softly. Sister Yenluo obviously cared about Ethereal, but why couldn't she get over the hurdle between them? Sister Yenluo, actually Chu Qingyan felt that it was about time to tell her the truth. Otherwise, she would be guilty if she really caused trouble. At this time, Yilingfeng appeared out of nowhere. His footsteps were a little unsteady, and he was about to walk towards Xiao Su's room. Cheng Yenluo saw him and immediately stopped him. Young Master Yi, Murong-ju entered the palace with you. How is Du Guqing's health? Can she be cured? When the 3 words Duguqing came out, Yi Lingfeng's dispirited eyes regained some spirit. Ethereal said that the injury is serious, but as long as the injured patient has a strong will and with medicine, there will be no problem in curing her. Cheng Yenluo heaved a sigh of relief when she heard this. Then, she asked again, if she can't be cured, will all the doctors be buried with her? I've never heard of such a thing. Moreover, little Qing is so kind. She won't do such a thing. Yi Lingfeng shook his head. Little Qing was pure by nature. Although she was in power now, he believed that a leopard couldn't change its spots. Little Qing wouldn't kill him next time. Cheng Yenluo was puzzled. But, little girl, didn't you say? Where's the little girl? Cheng Yenluo suddenly realized that she had been tricked by the little girl when the corner of her snow-white clothes fluttered around the corner. Cheng Yenluo's furious roar reverberated throughout the spacious inn. Little girl, don't think that I can't catch you just because you have excellent Qing Gong. If you have the ability, don't let me see you again. Chu Qingyan heard her roar, stuck out her tongue, and slipped away. It turned out that being a matchmaker was not easy at all. She had to be cute, glib, ugly, and run fast with Qing Gong. Otherwise, she was likely to die young. At this moment, a mysterious man in black appeared in Shanggui's Lord Mansion. Bold assassin, how dare you break into Lord Kun's mansion? Tell me, who sent you? Lord Kun, who was Duguqing's third uncle, questioned coldly. I'm from Xixian. I've been entrusted by my master to come here and help you. The man in black bowed and said. Chapter 546. King Kun frowned and said with disdain, Xishuan. Xishuan came to meddle in Shang country's affairs. Don't you think it's too meddlesome? And who does your master think he is? How dare he send someone to my king's residence to criticize us? He's overestimating himself. The moment King Kun finished speaking, the man in black revealed a murderous look. The cold air that came towards King Kun made his face stiffen. Just as he was about to change his expression, the man in black spoke. 20 days ago, Shang country's emperor was hunting in the hunting grounds. Suddenly, 2 white tigers appeared and frightened Shang country's horse. The horse panicked and ran into the forest with Shang country's emperor. When the guards found him, Shang country's emperor had already died from an arrow. Am I right? Everyone knows about this. What's the use of saying this? King Kun saw the man in black's mocking look and his heart trembled. Then do you know that the 2 white tigers were bought by a certain lord from Nansung Kingdom? The man in black said with a faint smile. King Kun's expression changed. How did you know? It doesn't matter how we know. Now that Lord knows about our strength, to cooperate or not. You have 2 choices. The man in black said without a trace of politeness. Who do you want to deal with? King Kun finally understood their purpose. King of England, Xiao Su. The man in black didn't hide it. He would find out sooner or later anyway. I heard that the King of England, Xiao Su's princess consort is on good terms with Shang country's princess. Now that Shang country is in trouble, I don't think they will sit back and do nothing. Lord must have heard of Xiao Su's name. So do you think you can go against him with your strength? King Kun was tongue-tied. King of England, Xiao Su. He's in Shang country. The invincible Xiao Wang, who was famous throughout the world, who became a general at a young age and single-handedly seized 3 of the enemy's generals. The man in black looked at him in disdain. How could such a person be worthy of cooperating with his master? If it wasn't for the fact that the 3rd prince's faction had a greater advantage in the imperial court, he wouldn't look for them. Then who is your master? King Kun looked at him with a face full of questions. I can't tell you that. The man in black said bluntly. King's heart. He couldn't bear to have his weakness in the hands of the man in black in front of him. Obviously, he was prepared. His weakness was in the hands of the person behind him. It was a terrible feeling. All right, let's work together. King Kun agreed sullenly. Kun's King Kun. If you find anything, please. If you find anything. If you found him. Please contact me. If you find anything. If anything. If you find anything. And, if you. If you find anything, find anything. Him. If you find anything else, he. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a loose green robe walked out from behind the screen. Su Lu, what do you think about this? King Kun turned around and asked him immediately. If he's from Sichuan, based on his tone and aura, it's very likely that he's a secret guard in the palace. Those who are qualified to use a secret guard in the palace are the princes of Sichuan's royal family. Excluding Xiao Su and the young Xiao Ran, there's only Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao left. However, according to our intelligence, Xiao Yao has been unrestrained and indulged in wine and women. He has long declared that he has no intention of taking the throne. Therefore, the possibility is not high. Su Lu was King Kun's strategist. The plan to assassinate the emperor of Shang country and assassinate Du Guqing came from him. Su Lu had been by King Kun's side for many years and had long become King Kun's right-hand man. King Kun would discuss matters with him. This time was no exception. Therefore, there's only Xiao Ho left. The prince who is rumored to be weak and sickly. I've seen this prince before and vaguely feel that he's not as harmless as he looks. To be able to lay low for so long, he must be quite capable. Su Lu continued. Then should we cooperate with them? Although they had agreed, it didn't mean that they couldn't go back on their words. Su Lu waved his hand. The friend of an enemy is an enemy. Since they're enemies, we can make friends with the enemy of a friend for a short period of time. We'll endure the humiliation first. When the time comes, if you want to get rid of the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness, wouldn't that be just a word from you, Lord? Hearing this, King Kun's expression softened. All right. Previously, during the assassination, we didn't figure out the target and injured Du Guqing, who was disguised as the crown prince. Now that we've alerted the enemy, the assassination can no longer be used. Why don't we borrow this person's hand to take down the crown prince? We'll talk about the rest when the time comes. Su Lu nodded. No one would have thought that the target of the assassination was Du Guqing, but the one who was sent to the palace for treatment was Du Guqing. However, everyone knew that Du Guqing liked to dress up as a man. Therefore, the two of them didn't suspect anything. In fact, Du Guqing was just pretending to be someone else. The next day, Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su entered the Shang country's palace. Du Guqing had received news from Chu Qingyan yesterday that Xiao Su wanted to help her. At this moment, she was sitting upright and waiting for Xiao Su's arrival. When the three of them met, Du Guqing bowed deeply to Xiao Su. His Royal Highness, our Shang country's century-old foundation is in your hands. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Princess, are you not worried that this prince is plotting against your Shang country? He had the Shao Lai cavalry in his hands. If he took advantage of the situation, the Shang country's throne might change hands. Du Guqing smiled when she heard that. I trust you. At this moment, Chu Qingyan interrupted, our big ice cube is not the kind of person who would steal from others. Hearing Chu Qingyan's childish words, Du Guqing couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Su turned around and sat down. He looked up at Du Guqing. I'm indebted to Princess for trusting this prince. This prince already understands the Shang country's current situation. The two bigger powers in the imperial court are the third prince's faction and the fourth prince's faction. The others are nothing to be afraid of. Regarding these two factions, does Princess have any useful information? Du Guqing didn't expect Xiao Su to get to the main topic so quickly. She sat down on the main seat. She looked ashamed. I don't have anything valuable in my hands. However, I suspect that third brother colluded with third uncle to murder my imperial father and brother. It's just that I don't have any evidence. Evidence? Xiao Su frowned. Leave this matter to the Xiao Lai cavalry. When the time comes, we will tell Princess the truth. Okay, thank you His Royal Highness. Du Guqing said gratefully. In fact, before coming here, Xiao Su already had evidence that King Kun and Third Prince colluded to murder the Shang country's emperor. However, it wasn't enough to prove it. That was why Xiao Su said that. The day after tomorrow is the end of the year. What are the arrangements in the palace? Xiao Su looked at her seriously. Because Imperial Father passed away, there can't be a big celebration. They just let the officials have a New Year's Eve dinner in the palace like in previous years. Du Guqing replied. Princess, why don't you make use of this banquet to get rid of Third Prince, King Kun and Fourth Prince's factions? Long delays may lead to trouble. Xiao Su said slowly. What? Not only was Du Guqing shocked, even Chu Qingyan was shocked. Big Ice Cube isn't joking, right? Could the tripartite balance of power and influence be eliminated so easily? However, the person in front of her looked calm and didn't seem to be joking at all. Du Guqing reacted and asked solemnly, I wonder what Your Highness and King has planned? I would like to hear the details. Chapter 547. Du Guqing's steadiness and self-restraint made the arrogant Xiao Su look at her in a different light. He couldn't help but think of his good friend. It seemed like he still had a long way to go after her. He deserved it. Xiao Su didn't answer her question. Instead, he turned to ask the person beside him who seemed to be deep in thought. Qingyan, if you were King Kun and had a large army in your hands, you had been secretly spreading rumors that the crown prince couldn't wait for his majesty to pass down the throne and killed him, then what would you do at the banquet? Chu Qingyan did not expect Big Ice Cube to suddenly call out her name, but she still calmed herself down and thought about it. She had already seen Shangguo's information on the carriage, and it was still fresh in her mind. From what we know, the Kun king is short-sighted, cunning, and not smart enough. He is not an easy person to get along with. However, the reason why he was able to reach his current position after so many years, raise an army without anyone knowing about it, and secretly win over the officials in the imperial court, was all because of a strategist by his side, Su Lu. Su Lu is a bold and rash person. He is a strong opponent. Every plan he makes is very thorough, but he likes to take risks. Therefore, I think that he might let King Kun make things difficult for the crown prince during the banquet and collude with the officials in his camp to frame the crown prince. In the name of taking revenge for Emperor Shang, he will abolish the crown prince. King Kun has 100,000 soldiers in his hands. He has nothing to fear. If he can't force the crown prince to abdicate, he won't mind shedding all pretense of cordiality. After all, at this time, the crown prince has nothing to rely on other than 30,000 city guards and palace guards. The Empress of the Shang Kingdom, also known as Empress Chen, came from the Chen family of the Shang Kingdom's Defender General. For generations, they protected the Shang Kingdom. Since ancient times, in order to maintain the balance between the imperial harem and the court, the emperor would take some measures to prevent his relatives from interfering in politics. However, the Qin family had been generals and officials for generations. They were also worried that their achievements would affect the emperor. Furthermore, their family produced an empress. In order to not make things difficult for Empress Chen, they were also afraid of the Qin family. Therefore, when Du Guqing's maternal grandfather married his daughter to the Shang Kingdom emperor, he wrote a letter asking for the entire family to move to the border to help guard the border. Of course, the Shang Kingdom emperor agreed. Although it was one thing to trust in his subjects, it was hard to predict a person's heart. Hence, the Shang Kingdom emperor's trust in Empress Chen. However, the Qin family was at the border. Although there were people from the Qin family in the imperial court, they did not have much military power, let alone be compared to King Kun's army. The reason why Chu Qingyan had such a conjecture was because she had received news from the fierce cavalry that the king of Kun was mobilizing his troops frequently. It seemed like he was heading towards the Shang nation's imperial capital, Chu Qingyan shook her head and said, if they can create enough public opinion, you will be the ones in the wrong. They can declare you guilty in any way they want. Be it killing the emperor, seizing the throne, or colluding with other nations. The winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. Du Guqing leaned back in her chair in a daze. That's right. Even imperial father and imperial younger brother tried to kill them. What else can these people not do? Chu Qingyan could understand her thoughts. She had never had to worry about food and clothing since she was young. How could she know that people were sinister? For the sake of power and wealth, they were shameless and heartless. And now, she had this realization because of the pursuit that Big Ice Cube had encountered along the way. If it was someone else, it would be understandable, but even his father, the emperor, did not let him go. It simply overturned her three views. She could not imagine what the heart of the person who ordered the killing of his own son was made of. Was it made of iron? Sister Dugu, you don't have to worry too much. This is just my guess. Maybe nothing happened. Seeing her shocked expression, Chu Qingyan couldn't help but comfort her. Du Guqing shook her head and smiled bitterly. After hearing what you said and combining all the recent signs in the imperial court, I seem to be able to feel some signs. Recently, King Kuan's attitude towards me in the imperial court has been getting worse and worse. The reason why he is so fearless is probably because the end of the year is approaching. Chu Qingyan was silent. She didn't know how to comfort her. Qingyan is right. King Kuan will definitely make his move at the banquet. Xiao Su's words were concise as he came to a conclusion. Just now, you said that we should get rid of them at the banquet. Since we don't have the military strength to fight against 100,000 soldiers, and we are in a disadvantageous position, what should we do? Although she had more or less figured out King Kuan's deployment, Chu Qingyan still couldn't imagine how to turn the situation around. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Xiao Su's eyes flashed as he said to the two of them. Du Guqing guessed, are you trying to turn the public opinion around? And then? That's right. Since he can spread rumors that the crown prince has evil intentions, then you can also send people to stir up trouble and lead the public opinion to burn him and the fourth prince. I don't need to waste my breath on what you should do. Xiao Su nodded slightly. Chu Qingyan continued, this way, if we want to take King Kuan down at the banquet, we will have a reason. What about the fourth prince? Hearing this, Xiao Su looked at Du Guqing. Is it very difficult to convict someone of a crime? Du Guqing's eyes widened when she understood. Admiration for Xiao Su surfaced in her eyes. It's not difficult at all. Fourth brother has done many illegal things in secret for so many years. Any one of them can ruin his reputation. Whether it was raping a man from a good family, keeping a male pet in the palace, accepting bribes, or embezzling money from the treasury, any one of these would be enough to make him suffer. Chu Qingyan understood immediately. What Big Ice Cube meant was that regardless of whether the two of them would take action at the banquet, they would strike first to gain the initiative. The crimes were already made. If there was no evidence, they could fabricate them. Although this method was cruel and simple, it was the most effective and direct method at the moment. But I'm still worried about the 100,000 generals in King Kuan's hands. What if King Kuan is angered and sends his army straight into the imperial capital? The people who will be injured will be the innocent people. Du Guqing was worried. Xiao Su said indifferently, to catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. If the main pillar is gone, these people will be like a group of dragons without a leader. As long as you keep an eye on the third prince and King Kuan, everything else can be easily solved. With that said, he asked Du Guqing to take out the defense map of the imperial capital. Then, he instructed her on how to arrange for people to stand guard and form a protective circle around the imperial capital to achieve an impregnable effect. This would prevent people from taking the initiative to attack in desperation. Chu Qingyan leaned on the table and looked at Big Ice Cube who was circling the defense map. She couldn't help but fall into a daze. New Year's Eve was coming. Was Big Ice Cube going to show her his true appearance? She was looking forward to it. Chapter 548. After setting up the city's defenses, Xiao Su asked Du Guqing to secretly contact the ministers who supported Du Guqing's faction. As for the matter of not being able to contact the great general, he left it to Xiao Lai-Chi to handle. Du Guqing listened to Xiao Su's arrangements and noted them down one by one. For example, on the day of the banquet, how to strike first before King Kun spoke, and how to arrange the manpower in the palace, etc. The more she listened, the more Du Guqing admired Xiao Su's meticulousness. He even analyzed the personalities of the ministers in the court, such as who could be used, who could not be used, how they might behave on the day of the banquet, who was the enemy, and what kind of people could be used to control what kind of people. The originally chaotic situation of the court was suddenly cleared up with a few words from him. Everything became clear, and everything was sorted out clearly. Chu Qingyan, who was at the side, looked at the big ice block who was just sitting there with a normal expression. The moment he opened his mouth, he had the aura of turning his hand over and overturning the clouds. She sighed in her heart. This kind of man, even if Empitai collapsed in front of him, his expression would not change. He was good at observing the situation, devising strategies, and turning the tide with a few words. In the blink of an eye, he had a plan that was linked together. Up until now, she had only seen such an outstanding man, and he was the only one. It was no wonder that Xishuan and the others were afraid of him. How could a prince with outstanding martial arts, overflowing with talent, a broad mind, and good at strategizing not be feared? But in her eyes, her big ice block was becoming more and more likable. After discussing all the details of the banquet, Chu Qingyan stretched her body. She felt like she had not done anything, but she had used up all her brain power to think. She felt weak all over. On the other hand, Big Ice Cube, who was in control of the situation, did not seem to be affected at all. As expected, ordinary people like them should not be compared to him. Du Guqing also relaxed at this time. She had a plan in her heart, and her mood was not as tense as before. Originally, Du Guqing wanted to call for lunch, but at this time, Zhang Kai happily came to report that the crown prince had awakened. Hearing this, Du Guqing did not care about anything else. After instructing the palace servants to serve Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su, she quickly left. Big Ice Block, I feel that many things are slowly getting better. Chu Qingyan looked at Du Guqing's back and tilted her head with a smile. Xiao Su nodded. After we settle the matter in Shang State, where do you want to go? How about going to Jiang? Although I don't want to be a third wheel, I want to go and join them. Ha! Chu Qingyan could not help but feel that her treachery was laughable. Sure. Xiao Su smiled. At this moment, there was nothing he had to do, and there was nothing holding him back. The military power in his hands had already been taken back. Other than the title of Prince Ing, he had nothing else to do. It was a good opportunity to accompany the little fellow around and accompany her as she grew up. Big Ice Block, after the banquet is over, you have to fulfill your promise. I want to see your real face. Chu Qingyan rested her chin on her hands and looked at him with a smile. Since the Big Ice Block had decided to show her his real face, then she did not need to be timid. She did not need to worry about whether he would feel inferior because of his disfigured face. Because the word inferior had never existed in the Big Ice Block's dictionary. Since he could show it openly, then she would accept it openly. Regardless of whether that face was full of bumps and hollows, or if it was burned horribly, she could accept it. The Big Ice Block was someone she cared about. Then, whether it was good or bad, she could accept it. However, if he was like what was written in the novel, disfiguring his face was just a means to protect himself, then she would be even happier. Chu Qingyan laughed. Whether the Big Ice Block was handsome or not, he was an unshakable god in her heart. What if I disappoint you? Although Xiao Su didn't care much about his appearance, he was still satisfied with it. However, he wanted to tease her a little. Disappoint? That won't happen. I have always had faith in you. What we care about is the beauty in our hearts. You can pretend that you don't see anything on the outside. Chu Qingyan's heart skipped a beat. Would the big ice cube really mind? She thought about it and finally made a painful decision. How about you not show me your real face, big ice block? Why? Xiao Su's heart tightened slightly. Could it be that the little fellow cared about his appearance? Chu Qingyan did not notice the slight change in Xiao Su's tone. She scratched her head and tried to think of the right words. Actually, in my heart, the big ice block's image is already very high. No matter if you are disfigured or not, it will not affect you at all. Beauty is in the bones, not in the skin. At this point, Chu Qingyan suddenly laughed brightly. Big ice block, people are superficial and only look at the surface. However, I am not a superficial person. I have a pair of fiery eyes and look at the inside. So, you are the most handsome man I have ever met. Xiao Su relaxed because of her laughter. He always knew that the little fellow would not disappoint him. Then, he would not disappoint her even more. The day after tomorrow was the banquet. He was looking forward to it. Meanwhile, in the Kun Palace, the 4 people in the study were discussing the banquet's actions. The third Prince Duguhi, the Kun Palace, Su Lu, and the man in black that appeared that night. As expected by Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan, they were preparing to force the crown prince to step down during the banquet. However, on the roof of the study, 2 people were leaning on the tiles and listening attentively to the people below. Young master, the information we received from our investigation is correct. That person was sent by Xiao Ho to deal with the King of England. I did not expect them to be able to gather so many assassins in Shang country. Xuanqi Zimo sighed. Higashio Motetsu's lips curved into a smile. His natural charm spread across his brows. People who achieve great things are good at enduring and scheming. They hide in the dark and wait for the best opportunity to strike. Xishuan, the third prince, is such a person. There were indeed many talented people in this world. Then, should we inform Miss Chu and the others? Xuanqi Zimo asked. Hearing this, Higashio Motetsu looked at him strangely. Have you forgotten our purpose? He remembered it all along the way, okay? It seems that he forgot about you, young master. However, Xuanqi Zimo did not dare to say this out loud. This subordinate will always remember it in his heart. He swore. Higashio Motetsu finally retracted his gaze. In order to protect Xinyue, he had already been tormented for a year. He could not continue fooling around. At this moment, Xuanqi Zimo suddenly said, "Oh right, young master, our Moon Palace's people seem to have appeared in large numbers near Shang country's capital. It seems that they are going to make a move on the King of England. I did not expect father to still not give up." Higashio Motetsu's lips curved into a smile. His tone was emotionless. Let's go. There will be a good show the day after tomorrow. Let's just wait and see. Now, accompany this young master to pick out a New Year's gift for the little girl. Higashio Motetsu stood up and left gracefully. Xuanqi Zimo scratched his head. He did not tell Miss Chu about their situation but wanted to pick out a gift for her. This kind of master, he did not understand. Chapter 549. It was almost the eve of the new year. Even though the death of the Emperor of Shang had caused the entire capital to be in mourning, the arrival of the New Year's Eve had diluted much of the sadness. Even though they didn't dare to openly decorate the streets with lanterns and decorations, the imperial court was currently in a terrible state and no one would care about such things. Thus, the citizens still pasted up couplets and window decorations. The atmosphere of the new year gradually became stronger. The streets and alleys were filled with people wearing new clothes. Children didn't know how to worry as they ran around with windmills. Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su sat in a horse carriage as they passed through the bustling city. They returned to the inn and arranged a safe place for Father Chu and the rest to stay. Because tomorrow night was destined to be a chaotic night, Chu Qingyan couldn't bring her parents to the palace to stay with them. Thus, before the chaos in Shang was resolved, it was better for them to stay in a safe place. Looking at the lively and adorable children outside the window, Chu Qingyan smiled. It's good to be a child, carefree and worry-free. When she said this, it was as if she had forgotten that she was only a 10-year-old child. It was just that she had grown 1 year older after the new year. Xiao Su followed her gaze and saw that there were children around 8 to 10 years old playing around. He couldn't help but find her words funny. Chu Qingyan felt her head become heavy. She couldn't help but look at the person beside her. She saw his hand on her head and his eyes were smiling. Don't forget, you're just a child too. She stuck out her tongue. Have you seen such a strong child? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. He thought that she was envious of the children's carefree and peaceful lives. He couldn't help but think for a moment before asking, what color do I like? Chu Qingyan wanted to keep up with the big ice block's jumpy thinking. However, she still answered honestly, red. Red was blazing. It didn't just represent joy, it also represented a heart that was constantly burning. I'll remember it. Xiao Su answered without any head or tail. This time, it was her turn to raise her eyebrows. The big ice cube was acting very strange today. However, on the second day, her room was filled with red, vermilion, peach, jujube, ruby, silver, and other different styles of clothes, shoes, hair accessories, jewelry. Chu Qingyan was dumbfounded. This is a sea of red. At this time, Xining was standing on the side with a basin in her hands. Seeing Hualing instructing Xiao Lai to bring in a chest full of clothes and accessories for her master, she couldn't help asking, Sir Hualing, what are you doing? Hualing put his hands behind his back and pretended to be deep in thought for a moment. Then he said with a serious expression, Master is giving the little princess clothes for the new year. Huh? Xining was confused. That's it. Actually, Hualing also didn't know why his master suddenly ordered them to go to Shang country and collect all the clothes and things for girls when he came back yesterday. They were all men and actually did this kind of thing. However, due to his master's prestige and the fact that the person they were sending was their family's little princess, they had to do it even if it was embarrassing. This was the first time their Xiao Lai cavalry went to a place filled with rouge and powder. Everyone came back with a body full of fragrance. That Liu Guang who could go 3 days and 3 nights without washing or sleeping on the battlefield took 3 baths when he came back. How pitiful. Xining felt that they were acting strange and brought water into the room. As soon as she entered, she saw her master sitting on a vermilion chest holding a golden hairpin in his hand and biting it into his mouth. Master, what are you doing? Xining was shocked. I'm trying to see if this golden hairpin is really made of gold. It's quite heavy when I hold it. In the past, she didn't pay attention to these things, but now that she had nothing to do and was thinking about traveling the world with Big Ice Cube in the future and raising such a large group of Xiao Lai cavalry, it would definitely cost a lot. She thought that if these were made of gold, she wouldn't wear them and hide them. In the future, when she didn't have enough money to spend, she would just treat it as spending one item at a time. Xining patted her chest, that's good, that's good. This servant thought that you wanted to commit suicide. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes at her. Was she the kind of person who would commit suicide? However, when she saw Xining's plain and clean clothes, she thought that she had never been harsh on this little girl. Why did she dress like the palace maids in Shang Kingdom's palace? Thinking of this, she picked out a few bracelets, hairpins, and beads that she liked from several boxes and stuffed them into Xining's hands. Here, this is a New Year's gift for you. After saying this, Chu Qingyan stubbornly bit those hairpins. It was so painful. Xining hugged those bracelets and hairpins, her expression somewhat absent-minded. Ever since she followed this master, she was different from other people. In the Wang Fu, it wasn't that she hadn't seen the servant girls who were bullied and reprimanded by her master. Compared to them, she couldn't be too lucky. Moreover, she had seen many things along the way with her master. She felt that her vision had broadened and she had become more confident. These were all given to her by her master. She silently vowed in her heart that she wouldn't let her master down in this lifetime. "Master, you're so good to this servant." Xining couldn't help but sigh. Chu Qingyan had just been pricked by a jade pendant, causing her to grimace in pain. When she heard Xining's words, she couldn't help but laugh. "You were bought over by this little thing. In the future, if someone offers a higher price than me, won't you sell me?" Xining immediately said righteously, "Master, Xining is a person who cannot be corrupted by riches and honor, cannot be subdued by might, and cannot be moved by poverty." "Ha, you've actually memorized these words. Alright, I still feel that I'm not good enough for you. How about I arrange a marriage for you? I found that the ancient people really liked to arrange marriages when they were children. How about I arrange one for you too? How about Jean Xin?" Chu Qingyan winked at her. Xining suddenly blushed. "Master, you're naughty. You're naughty." Then she put down the water and ran away. Chu Qingyan laughed loudly. Very quickly, it was night time. The palace was hung with red lanterns and red silk. The palace maids went in and out, extremely busy. At this time, Chu Qingyan was wearing a red male outfit. Her hair was tied up with a silver hair band, and 2 or 3 beads fell from the hair band. Her eyebrows were thick, and her facial features were deep. She looked just like a handsome young man. Although their identities had been exposed, there were still some things that had to be covered up. Otherwise, if news of Xishuan, Lord, and Princess Consort participating in Shang country's internal affairs got out, it would be troublesome if it was used by people with ulterior motives. Moreover, Big Ice Cube was a missing person. There were some things that should be kept low profile. What the hell was Ming Ming? Giving people the feeling of looking at flowers through the fog was a high-class thing. She liked it when people wanted to see but couldn't understand. She finished dressing up and just as she stepped out of the room, she saw Hualing waiting at the side. "Little master, master invites you in." Chu Qingyan was confused. Shouldn't they be heading to the palace banquet now? Why was Big Ice Cube looking for her? Chapter 550. Chu Qingyan followed Hualing to a quiet little garden and saw the person standing under the wisteria. Today, he was still wearing a black robe, but it was a bit more luxurious than usual. The corner of his robe was decorated with a cold lotus that was wrapped in golden silk. Large golden lotuses bloomed on the hem of his robe. When the night wind blew, those branches and leaves danced in the wind, creating a beautiful scene. He stood with his hands behind his back, looking at her from the side. His posture was handsome, solemn, and his eyes shone brightly. She couldn't help but think of a saying, if one's appearance was good, then one's expression was also good. His facial features were clearly ordinary, but there was a feeling that made people unable to look away. She thought, in this world, there would always be a kind of person who, regardless of appearance or status, could give people a feeling of amazement and warmth. Perhaps when others heard her say that His Royal Highness, who killed without blinking, was like this, they would snort in disdain, but she still firmly believed it. This person amazed her years and warmed her time. Xiao Su immediately saw Chu Qingyan walking over. Seeing that she was wearing red, he was very satisfied. He had never paid attention to a woman's appearance, so he had never paid attention to the little fellow's clothes. But yesterday, when he saw her enviously looking at other people's children wearing new clothes, he was a bit puzzled. Had he neglected her too much in the past? That was why he had done what he did today. He bought the most luxurious gold, silver, jewelry, clothes, shoes, and socks that women in Shang loved the most. But today, when he carefully looked at her clothes, he felt that there was no difference. No matter what the little fellow wore, it would still look good in his eyes. If it was someone else, Xiaosu wouldn't have the patience and energy to observe. Big Ice Cube, what are you looking for me for? Chu Qingyan walked in front of him with a face full of questions. The night was getting darker, and the light from the palace lanterns penetrated through the wisteria and fell on his body. With his back to the light, she could only see that his ink-black eyes seemed to be filled with tiny bits of starlight. For a moment, they were so bright that people couldn't help but be infatuated with them. She heard him say, "Tonight's palace banquet will probably last for a long time. I thought that I wouldn't be able to give it to you in time." Things. Chu Qingyan was a bit confused. At this time, she saw him take out a golden tablet from his sleeve. It was only the size of a palm and then handed it to her. Chu Qingyan's gaze was instantly attracted by this golden tablet. She took it. She had a habit of putting things in her mouth every time she saw golden things, so she didn't think too much of it and directly bit. This bite stunned Xiaosu, the fire spirit, and himself. Xiaosu's eyes twitched. Listening to their report, she had been testing the hardness of the jewelry in her room the entire afternoon. He was a bit confused, but now that he saw it, he was speechless. Huoling's face was filled with fear. Could it be that the little princess was so hungry that she didn't care about anything and just wanted to eat it? That was a golden tablet. It wasn't food, it wasn't food, it wasn't food. It could buy a lot of food. Huoling was already going crazy. Chu Qingyan's face was filled with awkwardness. It's over, she made a fool of herself again. It was all because she tried it too often in the afternoon that she bit it out of habit. Woo, woo, woo. After feeling helpless, Xiaosu still felt that he had to explain. Otherwise, if she pawned the golden tablet on a whim one day, then he would be bankrupt. This is a golden tablet. It can transfer all of my assets, including the Su family bank that is spread across the various countries, the rewards from the past 10 years, the income from the dozens of shops, the harvest from the farms. Before Xiaosu finished speaking, Chu Qingyan was already stunned. She didn't know what he said next. She never knew that the big ice cube was so rich. Did she find a rich man? The answer was yes. Su family bank. She listened the entire time and only caught this word. It seemed a bit familiar. Su family bank is one of the top 10 banks in the world. It is managed by Jin Ling. Even Master's assets and businesses are managed by him, Huoling explained after hearing this. Jin Ling. She had only heard of this person's name and had never seen him before. She was already curious. Even Water Spirit was curious. He's the most comfortable one among us 6 spirits. Huoling said with emotion. At this time, Xiaosu lightly said, "This king doesn't mind sending you to the bank to enjoy a few days of peace." Huoling immediately shook his head and waved his hand, "Master, you should spare this subordinate. Those abacus and account books will dazzle this subordinate." Xiaosu glanced at him and didn't say anything. At this time, Chu Qingyan finally realized what she was holding in her hands. It was a mountain of gold and silver. "Big Ice Cube, how rich are you?" She heard her voice tremble slightly. "Richer than you think." Xiaosu couldn't help teasing her. Huoling was dumbstruck from the side. Master, who had been ruthless to him just now, was suddenly gentle to the little princess. He couldn't accept this. Chu Qingyan felt that this golden token was too heavy. She couldn't hold it and immediately stuffed it back into his hands. "I can't take such a valuable thing. What if I accidentally lose it?" "It's fine. If it's lost, then it's lost." "Ah. I've already passed down the order. Jin Ling and the others will only recognize you and me. This golden token is just a symbol of your identity." Xiaosu explained unhurriedly. "Is this good?" "You don't need to feel too burdened. There is no reason for me to take back something I've given out." Xiaosu revealed a faint smile. Chu Qingyan looked at the golden token that had returned to her hands. Her heart was filled with waves that could not be calmed down for a long time. She looked at the back that was gradually walking away and her heart seemed to be gently poked. This was the first time someone had given her such a valuable thing. They didn't ask for anything and just placed it in her hands. She pressed the golden token against her chest. In the garden where the cold wind was blowing, she felt a warmth in her chest, as if something was growing there. On the way to the palace banquet, Xiaosu thought about the little fellow's expression and couldn't help laughing. The family business would be handed over to her sooner or later, but he felt that she didn't have enough ability right now. But when he found out that she was saving money for the coming days, he had this idea. He, Xiaosu, could support her. But thinking about their conversation just now, he couldn't help twitching his eyes. Big ice cube, then wouldn't I become the richest child in the world? You can think of it like that. Thank you, Big Ice Cube. No need to be so polite. Congratulations on growing up another year. Congratulations, you've grown another year older. He was only 21 years old after the new year, how could he be old? Hualing felt that his master, who was in a good mood just now, suddenly had dark clouds hanging over his head. He couldn't help shrinking his shoulders. His master's mood swings were so scary. The little princess loved to punish subordinates. Chapter 551. Although this banquet wasn't a grand one, the palace banquet wouldn't be too bad either. The moment Chu Qingyan entered, she saw officials dressed in official robes and sitting behind long tables with their families. It was a peaceful scene. Palace maids surrounded the entire hall like colorful butterflies, dazzling one's eyes. Below them was a burning earth dragon, making the entire palace feel as warm as spring. Chu Qingyan and Xiaosu attended this banquet as Dugu Qing's close friends. At this moment, someone came to lead her to her seat. Originally, Big Ice Cube wanted to come in with her, but he was called away because Dugu Qing had something to do. Not long after, hundreds of officials had gathered in the hall. Because she was young and kept a low profile, she didn't attract much attention. Therefore, she drank the tea in front of her and listened to the discussions in the hall. Hey, have you heard? His Majesty was killed by King Kuan. A minister whispered mysteriously to the person next to him. What? You heard it too? I heard it from official Yang yesterday. The minister next to him was shocked, then lowered his voice. I see. I heard it from official Lu. Official Lu seemed to have heard it from official Dong. Is this true or false? The minister also lowered his voice. I don't think it's groundless. You see, King Kuan has been speaking rudely to the crown prince recently. There's no respect in his words. Maybe he already has the intention to rebel. The minister next to him shook his head. Chu Qingyan covered her mouth with her hand as she drank her tea. Her lips curled into a smile. No matter how soft their voices were, they could not escape her ears. She realized that ever since her martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds, her eyesight and hearing had improved as well. Nothing within 30 feet of her could escape her ears. It seemed that she had already created public opinion. When the time came, she just needed to add fuel to the fire at the banquet to ignite suspicion. The mission that Big Ice Cube gave her tonight was very simple. It was to protect Dugu Qing and learn more. She had just finished her cup of tea when someone sat down beside her. It was Yi Lingfeng. Why are you here? Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. I'm a little worried about little Qing. Yi Lingfeng looked a little worried. He had a token in his hand, so he could enter without any obstructions. When Chu Qingyan heard him calling her Xiao Qing and Xiao Qing more and more smoothly, she was a little surprised in her heart. Although the person in front of her acted as carefree and unrestrained as when they first met, she could clearly feel that the pair of peach blossom eyes no longer had the previous cynicism. Instead, it was like the peace after 1,000 sails. She thought, the runaway wild horse is finally going to settle down. At this moment, Xiao Su also sat down. He was not surprised to see Yi Lingfeng. He turned to look at Chu Qingyan and said, 1 hour later. Pay attention to the situation. Alright. Big Ice Cube meant that the plan would start in an hour, so they had to pay attention to see if anyone was taking advantage of the opportunity to assassinate them. Yi Lingfeng asked, is there anything I can help with? Protect yourself and the people you want to protect. Xiao Su raised his wine cup and heard his question. He could not help but look at him and tease him. Although he knew that his good friend was teasing him, it was also the truth. Yi Lingfeng nodded and did not say anything else. Soon, Du Guqing, dressed in the crown prince's palace robes, entered the hall surrounded by the crowd. Greetings to your highness. Everyone bowed in greeting. My beloved subjects, rise. Du Guqing sat on the dragon throne and raised her hand to everyone. After everyone was seated, Du Guqing scanned the crowd and looked puzzled. Why don't I see King Kuan and fourth royal brother? Were they delayed on the way? When she said this, the officials looked at each other. It was disrespectful to appear later than the crown prince at such an important moment. Chu Qingyan saw everyone's reaction and laughed inwardly. These two would probably be delayed for a long time before arriving. Third prince stood up and said, Royal brother crown prince, third uncle might have been delayed by something on the way. Please forgive him. People in fourth prince's faction also said so. Du Guqing looked magnanimous. It's all right. Third uncle is an elder. As juniors, we should understand. Fourth royal brother's residence might be further away. It's all right. It's just that it's not a good idea to keep everyone waiting. Let's start the banquet. When the officials heard Du Guqing's words, they admired this benevolent crown prince. At the same time, they did not like King Kuan and fourth prince. No matter how arrogant they were, no matter how far their residence was, how could it be big enough for such an important occasion? Just as Du Guqing's voice fell, someone hurriedly ran in. Your Highness, bad news. Fourth prince quarreled with someone in the brothel and even injured someone. This has aroused the public's anger. A guard knelt in front of Du Guqing and reported. When he said this, the entire hall was in an uproar. What's going on? Du Guqing pretended to be surprised and asked. Fourth prince went to participate in the selection of the top courtesans in the capital. After getting drunk, he had a disagreement with someone. Then, he got his guards to beat the other party up. Now, the other party won't let fourth prince leave. Now, a group of people are still causing a ruckus on the river. The guard reported in detail. To be able to open brothels in the capital, there must be someone behind them. So this time, Xiao Su designed a good show based on fourth prince's licentious nature. He made him offend a few aristocratic families in the capital at the same time. Moreover, the selection of the top courtesan was held on the river. With Xiao Lai around, it was wishful thinking for fourth prince's people to spread the news. So, no one found out about it. Du Guqing was furious. Fourth royal brother actually went to such a place at such a time and even injured someone. Guards! Here! Someone stood up. Send someone to bring fourth prince back to the palace. When he sobers up, this crown prince will interrogate him. Who is right and who is wrong, this crown prince will give the people an explanation. Du Guqing coldly ordered. Yes. Zhang Kai immediately went to give the order. Everyone already had a bad impression of the fourth prince. He indulged in debauchery, bullied men and women, and used his strength to bully the weak. Now that this matter had happened, everyone disliked him even more. On the other hand, the crown prince was handsome, upright, and had great ambitions. This was what a crown prince should be like. With a comparison, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince's image was once again raised. Chu Qingyan tapped the table lightly. The fourth prince was probably going to lose his power by tomorrow night. His drunken assault was just the beginning. Once Duguqing revealed the other evidence of his crimes, he would no longer have the chance to make a comeback. After Duguqing dealt with it, she smiled again. Today is a joyous day. Everyone, don't let these small things affect the mood. Come, let's raise our cups. Cheers to Shang country's prosperity in the new year. Just as she finished speaking, a voice came from outside. Lord Kun has arrived. At this time, everyone had raised their wine cups high. Before they could drink, they were stopped. With Lord Kun's failure to arrive on time and the appearance of this node, everyone disliked him even more. Chu Qingyan curved her lips. An important character was about to appear. Chapter 552. Due to the foreshadowing just now, Lord of Kun felt the unreadable gazes from the crowd the moment he appeared. He could not help but feel his scalp tighten. He had left early for the banquet this time. Who knew that a shrew would pester him at the door saying that she was pregnant with his child the moment he stepped out of the palace? This caused his tigress to fly into a rage. He only cared about appeasing her and did not make it to the palace banquet. Furthermore, his tigress refused to enter the palace in a fit of anger. No matter how he tried to persuade her, he could not persuade her and could only enter the palace alone. At this moment, Duguqing already knew about this. She asked with a concerned expression, "Third Imperial Uncle, where is Third Imperial Aunt? Why didn't she come with you?" Hearing this, awkwardness flashed across Lord Kun's face. His tone was stiff. She was not feeling well, so she did not enter the palace. Lord Kun was not good at hiding his emotions. The impatience on his face towards the Crown Prince caused those officials who remained neutral and supported the Crown Prince to become even more dissatisfied with him. Su Lu, who was standing beside Lord Kun, saw that the atmosphere in the hall was a little strange. She could not help but whisper for Lord Kun to quickly sit down. After Lord Kun received the message, he returned to his seat. Duguqing glanced at the crowd and a smile appeared in her eyes. Then, she waved her hand and let the eunuch sing the part where the officials would celebrate the new year. Originally, this part was the last. However, after discussing with Xiao Su, this part was brought forward. This meant that the plan was about to enter the final stage. Chu Qingyan took a bite of the pork shoulder. Hearing this, she could not help but turn to ask the person beside her, Big Ice Block, what did Lord of Kun give? Xiao Su picked up some vegetables with his chopsticks and put them into her bowl. His expression was indifferent as he said, something that will only do him harm. There were too many people around, so she did not ask further. She lowered her head and saw the carrots in her bowl. She looked at the person beside her with a heart full of complaints. At this moment, she realized that Yi Lingfeng had not touched his chopsticks. She could not help but look at him. She saw that his gaze was fixed on the main seat. Chu Qingyan followed his gaze and saw that he was looking at Duguqing. Chu Qingyan shook her head. The furthest distance in the world is that I'm sitting in front of you, but you don't know. Now, it was King Kuen's turn to present his gift. Actually, King Kuen did not pay much attention to this gift. This was because their original plan was to make things difficult for the Crown Prince during the song and dance performance not long after the banquet started. Who knew that things would go wrong from the moment they left the banquet? Now, their plans were disrupted. Su Lu told him that there was a change in the plan. They would only take action after the gifts were presented. Only then did King Kuen suppress his emotions. At the same time, he sent someone to inform the third prince. King Kuen brought a box forward and said, "Your Highness, this is the scripture that my wife copied. I hope it can bless our Shang nation with good weather and the safety of Guotai." Duguqing's face was filled with joy. She let someone take the box and said, "Thank you for your kindness. May I know what scripture Third Imperial Aunt copied?" "This." King Kuen looked troubled. How would he know what was written inside? This afternoon, she suddenly said that the coral birthday painting that she had prepared was missing. He did not know who suggested that she use the scripture that she copied every day to replace it. King Kun was in a hurry for tonight's big event and did not care what she took. However, he did not expect the crown prince to not follow the rules. He felt that he was in a passive position now. King Kun's expression had already told everyone that he did not care about this gift at all. There was no sincerity at all. Bad review. Su Lu sat below and exchanged glances with one of Xiao Ho's men in black who was disguised as a follower. She suddenly felt that something was wrong with today's events, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. Du Guqing looked at King Kun's expression and smiled. However, it quickly disappeared. She said with an unnatural expression, "Third Imperial Uncle doesn't know either. Let's open it and take a look. I heard that Third Imperial Aunt has good handwriting. Let me take a look." King Kun felt that something was out of his control. However, he did not know how to correct it. He could only let Du Guqing do as she wished. Is it starting? Chu Qingyan put down her chopsticks and looked at everything in the hall with full attention. At this moment, the officials were still eating and drinking. The hall was filled with joy. Chu Qingyan heard Big Ice Cube's deep voice and replied, "Yes." She immediately entered a state of high alert. Du Guqing took out a stack of papers from the box. Originally, she was casually flipping through them, but when she saw the words on them, her expression suddenly changed. Then, she quickly skimmed through the papers, and the expression on her face became worse and worse. When the officials in the hall saw her expression, they couldn't help but stop. They had no idea what had happened. Even King Kun was baffled. At this moment, Du Guqing looked coldly at King Kun. She suppressed her anger and said word by word, "Third Imperial Uncle, you deceived the Emperor and colluded with Third Imperial Brother to murder my Imperial Father. You colluded with the officials to usurp the throne. The evidence is conclusive. What else do you have to say? Crown Prince, don't slander me." Chapter 553. She thought that it would take a lot of effort for King Kun to admit to these crimes, but she did not expect him to agree so easily. Du Guqing could not help but look at Xiao Su. This person's ability to read people's minds was really impressive. Du Guqing's gaze met with Yiling Feng's, but she looked away without a trace. This was a critical moment, and she should not be thinking about love. King Kun's words caused an uproar in the hall. "King Kun, how can you do such a disgraceful thing? Those who have disloyal hearts should be punished by everyone." The censor stood up and reprimanded him with a face full of anger. Once the censor spoke, many ministers stood up and reprimanded him. At this moment, King Kun raised his hand, and the sword of the guard beside him was in his hand. Then, he exerted force and stabbed the censor in the chest. This happened too suddenly, and no one expected it. When the censor fell to the ground, the ministers who stood up took a step back in fright. They went forward to check on him, and finally said to Du Guqing, "The censor has stopped breathing." "King Kun, how dare you kill someone in the hall? You've lost your mind to this extent." Du Guqing stood up angrily and pointed at King Kun. At this moment, King Kun put his hands behind his back fearlessly, and looked at Du Guqing viciously. "Your Highness, the winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. My 100,000 soldiers are already 3 miles away from the capital. As long as I give the order, they can flatten the capital within an hour. Now, there are 2 paths in front of you. One is to resign from the position of Crown Prince and save the people in the capital. The other is for me to flatten the capital and take over your position. You rebellious minister. Do you know that you will make Third Royal Brother unjust by doing this? How can the Shang Kingdom accept him gaining power like this?" Du Guqing looked at Third Royal Brother, who was at a loss. It seemed like he did not know that things would turn out this way. No, it should be said that he did not know that the plan would change so quickly. King Kun laughed out loud. "I'll kill God and Buddha." Those who block me will die. Whoever is not convinced can stand up, and I will fulfill their wishes. If anyone wants to stand on this king's side, this king will definitely not treat them unfairly. At this moment, Chu Qingyan was already standing beside Du Guqing. Looking at the ferocious King Kun below, she felt that her worldview had been refreshed. She had never seen such an arrogant and conceited person who dared to openly challenge the imperial authority. Even if such a person obtained the throne of Shang Kingdom, he would go down in history in infamy. She sneered, "Is that so? Then this prince wants to see who will stand on your side." After King Kun finished speaking, there were already many officials on his side. Most of them were people who usually argued with Du Guqing in the imperial court. Du Guqing's face darkened. Xiao Su wanted her to take this opportunity to see the true colors of these officials. After this matter was over, they could purge the civil and military officials, keeping the loyal ones and getting rid of the dregs. After a while, the two sides began to curse at each other. How can you help the evildoers like this? How can you face the Shang Empire, the Crown Prince, and His Majesty? A fine bird chooses a fine tree to nest in. I feel that following King Kun will lead to a brighter future. Those who walk different paths cannot work together. The Crown Prince should surrender quickly. Don't implicate the innocent people, said the other. Shameless bastard, shut up. The hall was already in an uproar. The situation was clearly in their favor, but Su Lu looked at the Crown Prince and felt that although the Crown Prince's reaction was angry, he was not flustered. Could it be that he had something to rely on? Or was he scared silly? Du Guqing glanced at Xiao Su. Seeing that he nodded to indicate that she could take action, she raised her hand to signal for everyone to be quiet. Then, she ordered, Zhang Kai, why are you still standing there? There are so many traitors. Capture them all. Yes, your humble servant. Zhang Kai immediately called for people to surround them. As expected, a fledgling is not afraid of a tiger. You want to go against us with just this amount of people? You are overestimating yourselves. King Kun snorted coldly. Then, with a wave of his hand, the guards who followed him rushed into the hall. In the hall, the situation was on the verge of breaking out. Du Guqing looked at the dozens of guards beside him and could not help but laugh. You dare to come out and make a fuss with just this amount of people. I don't know if Third Imperial Uncle is too confident. After laughing, she lowered her hand and Zhang Kai led people forward. Su Lu frowned. Lord, didn't our people enter the palace? Why are they so quiet now? King Kun was also confused. However, he could not show weakness now. He knew how to stabilize the morale of the army. Therefore, he shouted, everyone here, as long as anyone can hurt the Crown Prince, he will be promoted. As long as he can get the Crown Prince's head, he will be promoted to a first-rank official. With such a great reward, there would definitely be brave men. The guards beside him all rushed towards Du Guqing. These people were the best of the best under King Kun. They were not comparable to ordinary palace guards. At this moment, King Kun looked at the man in black beside him. Seeing that he was indifferent, King Kun was a little annoyed. Didn't you bring people here? Why don't you help me kill the Crown Prince? The man in black revealed a mocking smile. Your plan has been exposed. There's no need for us to cooperate anymore. My target has always been one person. After speaking, the man in black did not care about King Kun's ugly expression. He led his people and walked quickly towards Xiao Su. Their target had always been the King of England, Xiao Su. They had only used King Kun's power to let them enter the palace. This King Kun was still too naive and stupid. At this moment, Chu Qingyan was fighting with the guards who were attacking Du Guqing. She had just stopped 2 or 3 people when she saw people who were different from King Kun's men charging towards Big Ice Cube. Her expression changed slightly. Big Ice Cube's Shaolai cavalry had been sent to restrain King Kun's army. Now, There was no one else besides Turin. At this moment, the wine cup in Xiao Su's hands suddenly flew out and exploded in midair. The shards flew and slashed across the necks of a few people. One move took the lives of at least 3 people. Seeing this, Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she thought about it. Who was the big ice cube? His martial arts were exceptional, and these people would not be a problem for him. She continued to focus on blocking the guards who were attacking Duguqing. She did not know if it was because King Kun was too tempting, but these people attacked without any regard for their lives. Chu Qingyan could not take care of so many people. She was careless and someone went past her and went towards Duguqing. Duguqing's martial arts were not weak either. She lifted her leg and kicked towards the guard. But at this moment, a palace maid standing beside her suddenly took out a dagger from her sleeve and stabbed it towards Duguqing's chest. No. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.